Yo, what is good, ladies and gentlemen? How y'all doing? What is up? We are here tonight for one Kamala Harris versus one Donald Trump in what may be the only debate between these two, depending on how it goes. Could we get another debate after this? Possibly, potentially. I'm pretty sure we're going to get a vice presidential debate between Walz and Vance, which is going to be really interesting. But could we get another debate between Trump and Harris after this? I don't know, man. Like, if this goes poorly for Trump, I could see Trump not wanting to do another debate. Because let's be real here, Trump didn't want to do this debate. I mean, Trump was trying to back out of this debate. He's still obsessed with Biden. He still hasn't got over his breakup with Biden. He is still out there talking about Biden. He's still acting like he's campaigning against Biden because he wants to campaign against Biden. And it's just like, I cannot believe that the Democrats actually got a female on their ticket. This is crazy. Why do I have to run against a female? The last time I ran against a female was Hillary Clinton, and I was insulted back then. Only men should be allowed to run for president. I mean, that's the attitude he comes into this with, honestly. It's like, Trump, yeah. You have to remember, Trump comes from an old world, man. He comes from an old system where women, and especially women of color, did not get to these positions, did not get to these levels of power. And so he's sitting there wondering, why is this woman of color getting so uppity? Back in my day, this would have never happened. It's like, dude, it's not your day. It hasn't been your day for a very long time, Trump. Okay? That era of American history is over. We're not doing this again. We're not going through this. We're not going back. It's not happening. This is who you're running against. I know you wish it was Biden, but it's not. This is who you're running against. You can either deal with it and try and run against her, or you cannot deal with it and she will crush you. So, I mean, take your pick, dude. Take your pick. All right, so I was debating what stream I actually wanted to tune in for. But ultimately, I think I'm going to go with the ABC stream because ABC is the one that's actually hosting the debate. It's actually on ABC, the channel. So I think we'll give credit where credit is due, and we will check out the ABC stream. Go directly to the source.
Especially because of the mounting scrutiny that Trump has been, that Netanyahu has been under.
Turn down just a little bit until it's time for the debate. We got about 30 minutes. We got about 30 minutes before the debate actually happens. And live commentary mode. Wait a minute. What? What? What is this? Are they not letting people in the chat? Are you serious? That's lame. Come on now. That's just lame. Let people in the chat. Oh, that's annoying, man. Why do that? I don't get it. Why would you do that? That's okay. Let me see here. What about NBC? Nope. CBS? The chat is just straight up disabled. Oh, that's so annoying, man. Why would they not let... Maybe they're afraid of the trolls, I guess. But at the same time, it's like...
Does it matter in terms of his support? And on the
that's lame, because I want to see what the people are saying.
If he does...
C-SPAN? What are you doing?
We also had Jill Stein on the Washington Journal. The same
Oh, Christ. Come on now. This is ridiculous. I want to see what the peoples are saying.
Woodstock, Virginia, Democratic caller.
I need to get some feedback from the peoples.
On the debate stage there in Atlanta against Joe Biden. on June the 27th here. So,
Fox
like I
is
said,
the
I'm Andrew
only
Press.
one
Let's
that
keep
seems
bringing
to
in our
have.
friends
I mean,
and
I know what the
reporters
Fox
who
chat
know
is
a
going to
lot
say,
about politics,
but they seem to be
and
the
this is
only
fun. We're
one
going to do that right now with Fox 5 DC's Tom Fitzgerald. He
that
joins
actually
me
has a
now.
live chat. That's
Tom,
annoying.
good to see you. Happy debate
Yo, what's
night
up,
here.
failure?
What's
How you
at stake,
doing?
Tom?
You ready for this debate?
Well, good evening, Andrew. Good to talk to you as well.
I got my bag of
I think
popcorn. I got me a
everything's
big
at
bag
stake
of
here,
popcorn at the grocery store.
If you had
I got me some
predicted
vanilla
8
Coke.
weeks ago, we would be where we are tonight.
And I don't mean crack.
I don't know if
When I say vanilla Coke, I don't mean crack.
After
I ain't Ricada,
of news
okay?
that took place after Joe
I ain't
Biden
Ricada.
left the presidential race. After
There has got to be a different one that actually has a freaking, what's this, CNN?
I love them.
What the hell? What kind of shit is this? That's just a lie. Trump versus Harris debate.
So a drug dealer kills 500.
Yeah, this is just a straight up lie. What the? Oh my God. Wait a minute. Hold up. Tony.
I love them.
Tuesday night. Is he really taking vetoes? That is so fucking petty.
Some other things we got. What we got on tap? We got 3 things on tap. We got the Jenna Ortega saying she wants her own female led things rather than turning male things into female things. So we're going to discuss.
Yo, Jenna Ortega is based. Yo, Tony, that's so petty, dude. Don't be doing that. Come on now. ET now. What the hell is ET now?
It's just $5,000. Okay, so then you got to make up the delta there. Got to figure out how you can do that. Not everyone has access to that kind of wealth and capital. So
what is ET? What is this? Rise with India. This is an India thing? Almost fell asleep and remember the debate was like in 30 minutes. Get you some coffee or Red Bull or whatever your drink of choice is to wake you up. Wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up. What the fuck is this channel? At least they actually have a live chat, like daggum.
Also prioritizing investment and innovation. So let us.
Who do you think has an edge in the U.S. elections right now? Who has the momentum? Kamala.
And so, with that being said, I ask New Hampshire, are you ready to have your voices heard?
I need to find a better stream. Sky News. No, they don't have a chat. Fuck, I want one with a live chat. I want one that's just going to be straight up the debate, but I want it to be, whoa. Whoa. Yo. Now that's a callback. Melissa McCarthy as Sean Spicer. Oh my God.
The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say,
this is...
And investors assess the tax liabilities of large shareholders, the seniors, and senior pensions would.
Yeah, some of these are ass, man.
looking to this debate tonight to help make up your mind.
I definitely hope for this.
Just let the freaking let there be. Blaze, really? You know what? I don't know. The Blaze seems like the type of venue that if I showed their shit, they would strike my channel. I don't know. Fuck it. Fuck it.
Never seen anything like what happened that first week when she became the candidate.
Yo, dog. Glenn Beck. Yo, Mr. Hold up. Mr. Yo, where's Father Hostage, man? Like, dog. Where's Father Hostage? Like, I remember we had a whole stream where we were talking about Eric July on Glenn Beck's ranch. We eating gooding on with Eric July on Glenn Beck's Ranch. Yo, Glenn Beck looks like Colonel Sanders.
But about a month ago, I broke my own rule and made a prediction. This was right before Trump was convicted as a convicted felon. I said he's absolutely going to be convicted. This is a rigged judge.
Let me pull up the AI.
A rigged jury.
Yo.
And the reason that they're going to convict him is because
I gotta pull up the AI. Hold up. Let's see.
Indeterminate time. They're going to wait. It's not going to be before the election. They're
Glenn.
going to move the sentencing date closer and closer to the election until they
Glenn Beck
it right past. Then they are going to do everything in their power to rig
as
the election in
Colonel
the same way they did in 2020. And
Sanders
they'll be able to do that because Republicans have done
on
some,
a
but not
ranch.
nearly enough to protect against that kind of electioneering. When people start, if Trump wins, by the way, or if Kamala wins, they won't do anything. They won't put him in jail because they'll pretend. They'll pretend, oh, we don't want to put our political enemies in jail. But if he wins, then they will put him in jail because they know that will start political.
Yo, it's him with the chicken. Hold on.
Cannot allow him to take office. They have been planning this since the 1990s. The world.
This shit is hilarious.
Hold
on, I'll show you guys here in a second.
You know, we've got our
still
biggest
need people to vote. We don't want to demoralize people too much.
No.
They have to vote.
If they come out, we should all be renting a bus and making sure that we get every single every church, every pastor.
Oh yeah, did you guys see where like a bunch of right-wing people got exposed being funded by Russia? Like apparently Tim Pool is a Russian shill. Like Tim Pool was getting paid by Russia on some treasonous shit.
All of us are getting onto a bus.
Like it's straight up treasonous, bro.
Point. Let's get some optimism in here, Glenn. Why are you still optimistic in a strange way?
I'm actually more optimistic than I think I've.
You know, I don't think I've listened to Glenn Beck since Kamala became the candidate.
Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard. You have Barry Weiss. Who else? There was another one just recently. You have all of these big names coming out. Okay, Elon Musk is a Democrat.
Yeah, and Alan Dershowitz.
Alan Dershowitz, a Democrat. You have those names. That's not isolated. That is giving people permission who feel uncomfortable with what they're seeing to say.
There we go.
Quietly or in the booth. I'm not voting.
There we go.
Voting for her.
I feel like, though, when Liz goes in and makes her case for what's happening with Donald Trump, it's almost like even if you get more and more Democrats, it's only going to get worse on this side.
Because it's the left.
Yes, and it's just going to make that smaller and smaller. You're going to feel squeezed at that point.
Hold up. Here we go.
The hope is
tell me that Glenn Beck does not straight up look like this motherfucker. Yo, man, it's Colonel Sanders. It's Colonel Sanders, dog. We eating good eating with Eric July on Glenn Beck's Ranch. Oh my God, dude, straight up looks like Colonel Sanders.
With that, I mean, there's so much here and so much advice that I think we could give the Trump campaign for how they can change things up. But at this point, as Liz pointed out earlier, I do think that the Harris campaign is losing some momentum. But tonight could be a game changer for her. Steve pointed out that a lot of Americans actually don't know her. Media has done their darndest to make her seem very likable, very relatable. I don't think that she is.
Look, if she wants to win this debate, it's really easy. All she has to do is just get him flustered. Like every time Trump gets flustered, he just starts rambling. That's all she has to do. All she has to do is just stay on message, stay consistent, get him flustered. He'll start rambling. She'll look better in comparison. This really should not be a difficult debate for her. I mean, it really, honest to God, shouldn't. Like Trump has been so flustered ever since she jumped into the race. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So this really shouldn't be a difficult debate for her. It really shouldn't.
Pivot. That's like 101. Do not get into a debate about.
Oh, somebody asked, when is Dave coming back on? Dave Rubin is gone, man.
sob
Dave
story
Rubin is
about
in
how
Russia.
she
It's
made a
over,
particular
man.
choice.
He got taken out by the Kremlin. All right, enough of this. Enough of this. Be gone with him. Be gone with him.
Voices 2024. Be a part of the conversation.
Turkey Tom is watching the debate.
And back to your calls here as we await.
Okay, I got the whole thing on. I got my belt on. This one's an old one from Hot Topic, though. I got my black Vans on.
Yo, look
this
at
one,
my
okay?
boy, man. Look at Turkey Tom, man.
Fucking lost the swag competition. And then there was the
Coming
tie
out with
involved. Now,
the
tie I was
fucking
trying to put on.
suit.
I was like, okay, is it really that important? I was like, well, it's a suit. You got to put on a tie. I could not for the life of me figure out how to do the fucking tie. I don't know. I haven't been to many formal events. I couldn't do it.
Yo, he's looking stylish, man.
No comment. 9/11 vids? What happened on 9/11? What are you talking about? Tommy, my love, I've missed you so. Please continue to explain how you touch yourself inappropriately. I think it's very appropriate to touch myself. After a long day of streaming, listen, I've got the stop gooning thing going on, which, by the way, turkeytom.shop. They're almost sold out. If you want them, you got to get them now. The hats and the shirts are there. I'm anticipating they'll be gone by the end of tomorrow. So if you want them, you got to get them now. But regardless of that,
what, you don't see Trump getting flustered?
How do people tie?
Oh man, I mean, listen.
Where are you from? Your mother. Or from your mom, Massachusetts.
Look at his rallies lately. Like, the dude's been rambling.
My grandmother would say that I look.
That's all she has to do is get him flustered, and he'll start rambling. And if she does that, because here's the thing, in the last debate, the message coming out was Biden looked old and senile and had issues, mental issues, cognitive issues. She's the younger candidate now. If she can make him look old with cognitive issues,
don't say that. Don't even say fly.
she can turn the tables on what happened last time. She can put Trump in Biden's position. That's crazy.
Debate.
What I would worry about when it comes to Kamala Harris, honest to God, what I would worry about is if she ends up going on here and she's over prepared, she's prepped too much, and she gets on here and she's got all these facts and figures in her head and she's trying to get all that out there. Listen, Americans, your average American is not very academically inclined. They don't understand facts and figures. They understand emotions. They understand the razzle dazzle. You know what I mean? Like, they want to show, man. They care about emotions. They don't really. They don't really care about stats and figures and stuff. So don't. I mean, you can say it briefly, but then move on. Like don't go on about, like, if you know, like with Joe Biden when he came out, he was like, if you look at every single measure of the economy, we're doing better than we were before, and then I'm going to bring out this figure and this stat and this graph and this chart. No one cares. Stop. No one cares. You think Obama won because of stats and figures? Obama won because he made people feel good. Why the fuck is Tom showing everybody his fucking feet?
No, it's in there.
Somebody said hot. Somebody said, say the N-word.
You guys hear this?
What, narwhal? Is that the N-word? Narwhal?
Want to know. Goodbye to the 17,000 people that just clicked up.
Somebody said nice PB. Ooh.
1,000 people watching right now.
This ain't OnlyFans.
The beast inside, parentheses, pausing. You got to restrain the beast inside or it might come out and you might start gooning. Tump or Kamala? Tump or Kamala?
Wow. Yo, Tom's chat, and listen, I watch Turkey Tom a lot, but Tom's chat is like one of the most sexually repressed chats that I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Today we're going to talk about institutional racism.
The shit that they say, man, like they call him like turkey twink. I'm like, whoa, dog. They're always talking about gooning. It's like, bro, chill, man.
That's my
chill.
Rays of Shadows impression.
He surprisingly has more experience in this environment than she does. What you mean on the debate stage? I mean,
You actually sound like you in that moment. You're right.
Today we're going to explain.
it depends on what context. Like if you're talking about in regards to a general election, yeah, he does, obviously. But if you're talking about in regards to just debating in general, I mean, she did run in the primary last time, and she was in the vice presidential debate last time. So
I'm new on the block, but that doesn't mean I'm like Hassan, right?
yeah, he's got more experience on paper, but
I'm not like Hassan, okay? That guy's fucking.
is it enough? I mean, is the gap wide enough there? I don't really know.
Last night in my dream that Hassan Piker's gay. I'm gonna need you to not tell anyone else. Just keep it between you and me. Just keep it between you and me. Okay, I like you. I think you're a good guy. You've always been my number one guy. You've always.
All right, Tom. We'll check you out later, my boy. Have a good one. We are now less than 10 minutes from this debate going down. So let's. Wow, she's actually got National Debate Watch Party with Tim Walsh. Wait a minute, hold up.
Because we know this is going to be another close contest, and it's going to be those small margins in the states that will decide this election. The historic enthusiasm for the Harris-Walz ticket has made August the best grassroots fundraising month in presidential history. Nearly 3 million donors gave.
Is Trump streaming this shit?
Half of them were first-time donors who did not contribute.
Does Donald Trump have a YouTube channel? Hold up.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated.
But yeah, why isn't he streaming this? That's some shit.
Our candidates, Vice President Harris and Governor Walz,
That's weird.
as well as some of our top surrogates, are crisscrossing key states.
Where the fuck is ABC?
Welcome, everyone, to the race for the White House. Tonight, we gather for one of the most anticipated political events.
All right, you know what? Let's. I really want one with a live chat though. Like that's a thing. Fuck.
His 2016 prep, he was serious about getting ready for Hillary.
Chris Christie, is he still living?
He was completely unserious about getting
Chris Christie is still living.
I think performances in both those debates.
How the fuck did Herman Cain die before Chris Christie? How did that shit happen?
And we have about 6 minutes left before the debate, so let's bring in Donna Brazil, formerly the DNC, and Reince Priebus, the RNC.
How did that shit happen, dog?
Let's start with you. You have said that Kamala
I mean, I know COVID, but still.
the future, but she also has to
Like Chris Christie's obese as fuck.
It's quite easy because
I'm gonna see if I can find one with an actual live chat, because that's what I care about. I want to get like people's.
Of your screen, Salsa 895 says Harris has the know-how and knowledge and is educated. Let's see. Going to Virgo. Donald loves America and Americans. He truly wants us all to be happy and safe and successful. And we'll see a couple of more. We'll try to. Amanda says I don't even have words. That's her only comment there. I don't even have words. That's just interesting. There, David says Harris is more tough than Trump. And then Brandon, I've seen a lot of comments from Brandon because you can on the poll form you can put in whatever name or username that you want.
I mean, there seems to be an interesting mix of Trump and Harris voters in this chat.
Here are valuable to us because it gives us an idea as to how people are.
But then again, I don't really care about the local channels, to be honest with you. Why do none of the news channels actually have a freaking live chat?
Who might be dual citizens living, or Americans who are living here who aren't sure.
Folks, I understand, have got
behind the scenes, that he can be the anti-establishment candidate like he
Yeah, that's annoying, man. What the?
Interesting and so simple. These two have never met. They have not ever been in the same room.
Why?
And I'm thrilled to be here in Detroit with the incredible men.
I don't care about the reruns. Come on.
All to see what challenges and opportunities are faced.
A border deal would hurt his campaign. So he ordered his allies.
How does India let there be a live chat, but the rest of these fuckers don't? What the fuck is that shit? Okay, yeah, then I get that, but that's part of the experience. Let people argue, let them make jokes. That's what makes it fun. Besides, I want to get like live feedback from people. What, something happened in the chat? No, I'm looking for a stream that actually has a live chat to go with it. And I want one that has like a mix of Trump and Harris voters. Yeah. Yeah, I want like a mix of the two.
But it's also not okay for America that they don't really know enough about this woman that they just might vote for. And I hope that tonight, again, these...
Do I really want to watch Newsmax? Okay, see, like the problem here is that
I don't think any of us can wait. I see David smile. He's excited. We're excited. David and Rick, don't go anywhere. Yeah, David, we're going to have you in the post game, and we're going to have to.
So my problem with that is it's going to be mostly Trump supporters, and I want to mix.
Whether you're a soldier, you're an airman, a Marine, sailor, or a coastie, he keeps us in his heart in the decisions that he makes. We saw this through his first term in the presidency, when he not only didn't start any new wars, he took action to de-escalate and prevent wars. He exercised the courage that we expect from our country.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock. So, hey, yo, wait a minute, hold up. Now this is CNBC. And they have well, this might work. This might work. Thanks, Stimulated Cynic. They're perfectly fair and balanced. No, they're not. I doubt a neutral political chat is allowed. Well, I don't want one that's neutral. I just want a mix of Trump and Kamala supporters. And this one seems to have it, to be honest with you. Yeah, because I'm seeing some Harris support in the chat. I'm seeing some Trump support in the chat. That's good. Hold on. Let me see if News Nation has got a stream. I don't know if they do or not. No, they don't. News Nation would be good, but no, they don't. What?
There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
I want to know, who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs?
We've got something better to offer the American people. It starts with our candidate, Kamala Harris.
I accept your nomination as President of the United States of America. It is now our turn to do what generations before us have done, guided by optimism and faith to uphold the awesome responsibility that comes with the greatest privilege on earth, the privilege and pride of being an American.
What do we do with this audio quality?
So let's get out there, let's fight for it, let's vote for it, and together let us...
Wait a minute, what the fuck is this? Show the oh my god, no, fuck this. Alright, fuck it, we're going to the ABC stream. Fuck it, fuck it, fuck it.
Raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing
All right,
they
here we
are
go,
part
here
of
we
the
go.
backbone of America's economy.
Fuck the chat.
My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums. And they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected
Well,
very soon.
that didn't take
and you
long.
see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings.
already
They're going
rambling.
in violently. These are the people that
he's-
she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country.
He's
They're
already
dangerous. They're at
rambling.
the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people
here's the
want a
problem,
president who
failure. These
understands
good
the
jobs you're
importance
talking about
of
are like
bringing
these
us together,
super
knowing we have so much more in
labor-intensive
common
jobs.
than what
Let's
separates
just be
us,
real.
And I pledge to you to be
The majority
a
of
president for all
American
Americans.
citizens don't want to do those jobs.
Number
Now,
one,
you
I
may
have
say
nothing
they're
to do,
good
as you know,
jobs,
and as she knows better than anyone, I have
but
nothing to do with
the majority
Project
of American citizens
2025.
don't want to do those type
That's
of
out there.
jobs.
I haven't read it. I don't want
I
to
mean,
read it
that's just the
purposely. I'm
honest to
not
God
going to read
truth.
it.
Like, they
This
don't
was
want
a
to do
group of
those
people that
jobs.
got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got
Do
gowns,
they
we got
want to do
masks, we
those
did things
jobs,
that
or are
nobody
they
thought
forced to do
possible.
those
And
jobs
people
because
give
they
me
have to
credit
pay
for
their
rebuilding
bills
the military.
and buy
They give me
groceries?
credit for a lot of things, but not
I don't
enough
think
credit for the
anybody
great
would
job
want to
we did
do
with the
super
pandemic. But
labor-intensive
the only
work.
jobs they got were bounce
It
back jobs.
destroys
These were
your body.
jobs
Why would anyone
bounce back, and
choose
it
to do
bounced
that?
back, and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Besides, those jobs are being replaced by machines anyways.
Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country.
But
And
see,
just to
failure,
finish
what
off,
you're failing to
she
understand
doesn't
is
have a
that
plan. She copied
those
Biden's
jobs are all
plan,
going to be done
and
by
it's like
machines in a
4
couple of
sentences,
decades anyways.
Like run, spot, run. 4
I mean,
sentences that
automation
just,
is taking those
we'll
jobs
try and
away.
lower taxes.
And you
She
can't
doesn't have a
stop
plan. Take
that.
a look
You
at her
can't
plan.
fight
She doesn't
that
have a plan.
progress.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something.
So
you
those
both
type
brought
of jobs
up.
aren't going to
The Vice
exist
President
soon
brought
anyway.
up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know,
If you're
many
going to be
economists
making
say that
laws
with
and
tariffs at that
policies,
level, costs are
you
then
have
passed
to
on
look
the
at
consumer.
things from a
Vice President Harris has argued
long-term
that it'll mean higher prices
standpoint.
on
Where's
gas,
the country going to be
food,
in
clothing, medication,
not just 4
arguing
years,
it
but
costs
10
the
years,
typical
20
family
years,
nearly
30 years?
$4,000
You have to
a
start
year.
planning for
Do
this
you
stuff.
believe
It's called
Americans can
long-term
afford higher
planning.
prices
I
because
wish
of
more
tariffs?
We're not gonna
politicians
have higher
would do
prices.
it.
What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping
And
us off for years.
my point in
George, I was
saying
the
all
only
this
president
is
ever.
that
China was paying us
why are we
hundreds
so
of billions
focused
of
on these
dollars,
type of
and so were
jobs
other countries. And
when
if
in
she
the
doesn't
long
like
term
them,
it's not
they
going to
should have
matter
gone out and they
anyways?
should have
It's a
immediately
mute
cut the
point. So who
tariffs. But those
cares?
tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the
here's the
history
thing.
of our
People
country because I've never
want
seen
to
a worse
work,
period of time.
but they
People can't
want
go out
to
and buy
work for a
cereal or
job that they
bacon or
actually
eggs or
enjoy.
anything else.
They
The
want
people
good
of our
benefits.
country are
They want to be
absolutely dying
respected.
with what
They
they've
want
done.
really
They've
good pay.
destroyed the economy. And
They
all you
have
to do is
certain
look at the
demands.
polls. The polls
It's not
say
just,
80
well, we're
and
going to work
85 and
for
even
the sake of
90%
working.
that
I mean,
the Trump
no one's
economy
going to
was
do
great,
that.
that their economy was
That's not
Vice
how
President Harris, I do
the
wanna
younger
ask for your
generation
response.
thinks.
You
It's
heard what
like
the president
if
said
we're
there,
going to
because
do
the Biden
this, we have
administration
certain
did keep,
demands.
a number of the Trump tariffs.
And I'm
in
glad
place.
that
So how
they're
do you
actually
respond?
sticking up for themselves.
Well, let's be clear
Unlike
that
their
the
parents
Trump
who just rolled over
administration
and took it.
resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency.
What
he
jobs
ended up
only
selling
exist for rich people? What are
American
you talking
chips
about?
to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having, on the short end of the stick, in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything.
But
that
failure,
she
it doesn't
believed
have to
3
be
years ago
that
and
way.
4 years ago is
You
out the
just
window.
accept it.
She's
It
going
doesn't
to my
have to be
philosophy
that
now.
way.
In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy.
That's
But
why we need to
if she ever
focus
got
on
elected,
workers'
she'd
rights.
change it.
Force
It
the
will be the
employers
end of our
to
country.
give us
She's
what
a
we want.
Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist.
Fuck the
Her
employers.
father's a Marxist
Fuck the
professor in
CEOs.
economics. And he
The
taught
workers
her well.
should have
But
more
when you look
power.
at what she's done to our country,
That's the point.
And when you look at these
We can
millions
create
and
that
millions
type
of
of
people
world.
that are pouring into our country monthly,
You just
where
accept,
it's, I
well,
believe, 21
all life
million
is
people,
just
not
going
the
to work
15
every day and
people
being
say.
miserable.
And I think it's
If
a
you
lot
want to
higher
live in a
than the
world like
21.
that, have
That's bigger
fun.
than New York
But I
State
don't.
pouring in. And just look at
That's
what they're doing
awful.
to our country.
That's horrible.
They're criminals. Many of these people coming
Why would
in
you
are
just
criminals.
accept that?
And that's
Fight
bad
against
for
it.
our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later.
That's
Well,
how we
bad
got things like the
immigration is
40-hour
worst thing that
work
can
week.
happen to our economy.
That's how we
They
got the
have,
benefits that
and
we
she
do
has
now.
Destroyed
We fought
our
for
country
it, and
with
we made
policy
them give it
that's
to us.
insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many
Well,
with
Cynic,
regard
I'm
to your
glad that
6-week
you
abortion
have
ban,
that,
because you
but
initially
not
had said
everyone
that it was
does.
too short. And you said, quote,
And
I'm
we
gonna
need
be
to make sure
voting
that
we need
everyone
more
has
than
that.
6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates.
Well, see, at that point, you start
The
getting into
Democrats
the
are radical in
topic
that.
of UBI,
Vice
universal
presidential
basic
pick, which I
income,
think was
which,
a
by the
horrible
way,
pick, by the way, for our
Thomas
country,
Paine, the
'cause he
man
is
who wrote
really
Common
out of it.
Sense,
But her
who
vice
inspired the
presidential pick
Revolutionary
says
War,
abortion
Thomas
in the
Paine
9th
was
month
promoting
is absolutely
universal
fine. He
basic
also
income
says
200 plus
execution
years ago.
after birth. It's execution, no longer
I
abortion.
mean, we're going to
because
get to the
baby is
point
born
to where
is
there's more
okay.
people
And
than
that's
there
not
are
okay with me.
jobs.
Hence
And what
the
are we
vote.
going to do?
But what I
Just
did is
let
something
everybody go
for
homeless and hungry?
52 years they've been
That'd
trying
be
to get
fucking
Roe v.
crazy.
Wade into the states.
The economy is
And
going to
through
change
the,
dramatically from what it is now.
genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government.
It's
I
not
did a
just
great
about
service in doing
me
it. It
or
took
you.
courage to do it.
I
And the
want that
Supreme Court
reality
had
for
great courage in doing
everyone.
it. And I give
And I
tremendous
believe it's
credit to those
possible for
6
everyone to
justices.
be able
There
to
is no
do what
state
they
in this
love
country where it is legal to kill
and
a
not have
baby
to worry
after
about
it's
their
born.
basic
Madam
needs.
Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here.
I'm not even going to
Donald
honor
Trump
that with a response, dude. That's
hand-selected
ridiculous.
3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D.
Damn.
I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he's speaking for me. But I really didn't.
Yo, he's just shitting on his
we
own
don't have
vice
to discuss
president.
it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans.
He
They
might
can't
as well
come
just
close to
say,
getting
I
student
don't
loans.
give a
They
fuck
taunted
what
young
JD has to
people
say.
and a lot of other people
JD's
that
a
had
little
loans.
twerp. He's
They
a
can never
weird
get
little
this
twerp.
approved. So
I
it doesn't matter
regret
what she says
making him
about
my
going
vice
to Congress.
president.
So
I don't
wonderful.
give
Let's
a
go to
fuck
Congress. Do it.
what
But
JD
the
has
fact
to
is that
say.
for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on
Yeah,
abortion.
as somebody that
Vice
actually
President Harris, I wanna
comes
give you your time to
from
respond, but I do wanna ask,
Appalachia,
would you
yeah,
support
I can tell
any
you right now,
restrictions on a
we
woman's right to an
disown
abortion?
JD Vance.
I absolutely
JD
support
Vance
reinstating the protections of Roe v.
sucks.
Wade.
He's
and
weird,
as you
man. He's
rightly
weird.
mentioned, nowhere
Every time
in
I look at him, I'm like,
America is a
ugh.
woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states
Tennessean, as a
both,
Southerner,
the people of America
when I look
have
at
voted for
JD
freedom.
Vance, I'm like,
Vice President
nope,
Harris,
Excuse me, I have
nope,
to respond.
he does not
Another
represent
lie.
us.
It's
All
another
right,
lie.
we
I have been a
disavow.
leader
We
on
disavow.
IVF,
We disown him.
which
He
is
does not
fertilization.
represent us.
The IVF,
He's a weird
I have
little
been a
dude,
leader.
man. Like,
in fact,
like he's
when they
such
got a
an
very
idiot,
negative
dude.
decision
Like,
on
the shit
IVF
that comes
from
out of
the
his
Alabama
mouth.
courts,
He's literally
I saw
the
the people
walking
of Alabama and the
embodiment, the
legislature
walking,
2
living,
days later
breathing
voted it in.
embodiment
I've been a
of
leader
talking
on it.
before
They
you
know
think.
that, and everybody else
And it's
knows
just
it.
so
I have been a leader on
fucking
fertilization,
cringe,
IVF.
man.
And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that
Why
question?
don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside, and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border
Yo,
security.
straight up,
We know it's an
JD
issue that's
Vance is the
important to
guy
Republicans,
that
Democrats,
you're over in
voters
the
across
corner, you're
board,
having a
in
drink
this
with
country.
your boys, right?
Vice President
You're
Harris,
shooting shooting
were
the
tasked
shit,
by
and
President
all of a
Biden
sudden you
with
look
getting to
over to the
root
door and you
causes
see
of
JD
migration
Vance
from
walk
Central
in,
America.
and you just roll
We
your
know
eyes.
that
You're like,
illegal border crossings
fuck.
reached a record high in the Biden administration. This
Who
past
brought
June,
this clown?
President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working
exactly.
there right now,
Like,
overtime,
again, just
trying to do
picture
their job.
you're in the
It
corner
would
of the
have
room
allowed
with your
us
boys,
to
you're having a
stem the
drink,
flow of fentanyl
you're sitting there,
coming
you're
into the
shooting the
United
shit,
States. I know there are so
and then
many
all of a sudden
families
JD
watching
Vance
tonight
walks
who have been
into
personally
the
affected
fucking
by
room,
the surge of fentanyl
and
in
you
our
roll
country.
your eyes and
That
you
bill
just look
would
at your
have put
boys. You're
more
like,
resources
oh my
to allow
god,
us to
that
prosecute
dude
transnational criminal
sucks.
organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human
Like,
beings. But you know what happened to that bill?
you almost want
Donald
to call
Trump
the
got on the
cops
phone,
to have him
called up some
removed from the
folks in
fucking
Congress and
property,
said, kill the
but
bill.
then
And
you
you know
realize
why?
that the cops would
Because
probably break
he'd
up the
prefer to
party,
run on a
and it's
problem
like,
instead
shit,
of fixing
we're stuck
a
between a
problem.
rock and a hard
And
place.
understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
Damn.
And I will tell you, the one thing you
Damn.
will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People
Oh
don't
my-
go to her rallies. There's no reason to go.
He's about to
And
fuck up.
The people that do go, she's
He's talking
bussing
about
them
the
in and
rallies.
paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light.
He's
So
obsessed.
she can't talk
Oh
about that.
my
People don't
God,
leave my
look
rallies.
at her,
We have the
dude.
biggest rallies, the most
Yo.
incredible rallies in the history
Yo.
of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost.
He's
We're
so
a failing
obsessed with
nation.
crowd
And it happened
size
3.5
and
years
numbers.
ago.
It's
and
like, dude,
what's going on
enough
here? You're going to end
the
up in World
fucking
War III. Just to go into another
ego,
subject,
man. Like, his
what they
ego
have
is
done
so
to our country
sensitive.
by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our
She
country
just struck
and
a
look at what's
fucking
happening to
nerve.
the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of
I have
towns don't want to
huge
talk about it
crowds. I
because
have
they're
the
so
biggest
embarrassed by it.
crowds.
In Springfield,
Crowds
they're
are a
eating the
euphemism
dogs,
for
the
my
people that
dick
came
size,
in.
by the
They're
way.
eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to
And
the
the
city
rambling
manager there. He
begins.
told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this,
seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on
this is
television
a
say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Dude, I saw on
Again, Springfield City
television
Manager says there's
there
no
was like
evidence of that. Vice
these
President Harris,
guys
I'll let you respond to the rest
that
of
were
what
eating these other guys,
Talk about
like just
extreme.
ripping their skin off and eating their flesh.
You know,
It was on
this is,
some
I think, one of the
documentary I
reasons
saw. It was
why in
called
this
The
election,
Walking
I
Dead,
actually
I
have
think
the
is what it was
endorsement
called.
of
Bro,
200
I couldn't
Republicans
believe that
who
that
have
shit is
formerly
actually
worked
happening
with
in real
President
life.
Bush,
Oh
Mitt
my God.
Romney,
It
and
was on
John
TV.
McCain,
So
including the endorsement
that had to be
of
happening in
former
real
Vice
life, right? That was
President
like a
Dick
documentary
Cheney
or
and
something.
Congress member
Fucking
Liz
crazy,
Cheney.
dude. Fucking crazy.
And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term.
Yo,
And
would you
when we
expect
listen
anything less?
to
though?
this kind of rhetoric,
That's what you get
the
when you come to my
issues that
stream.
affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
Actually, hold up. Let me act like Riley. No, I will not fucking calm down.
When I hear that,
I will not
See, I'm
fucking
a
calm
different
down.
kind of a person.
I am going
most
to
of those
commit
people.
a series
Not
of
so graciously. They
escalating
did
crimes
bad
against
things or a
you
bad job.
if you keep
I
trying to
fired
tell
them.
me to
They
calm
never
down,
fired one
cynic.
person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen.
Now, see, here's
So
the thing.
when somebody
If
does a bad
anybody
job,
was going to
I'd
go
fire
around
him.
and eat
And you
people's
take a guy
pets,
like Esper,
honest
he
to
was no
God,
good,
it
I
would
fired
probably
him,
be
so he writes a
Riley.
book. Another
Like,
one
Riley
writes a book,
seems like
because
the
with me,
type
they
of
can write books
unhinged
with nobody
dude
else can.
that would actually
But
go around
they
and
have
eat
done
people's
such a
pets.
poor job,
I guarantee.
and they never fire
Listen,
anybody.
I don't
Look at
know
the
this for
economy.
sure.
Look at the inflation.
But I
They
would
didn't
not be
fire any of
surprised
their economists.
if
They have the
Riley
same
has
people.
eaten
That's a
somebody's
good
pet
way
hamster.
not to have
I'm
books
just
written
saying.
about you.
I'm just
But
saying.
just to
I would
finish,
not be
I got more
surprised
votes
if that
than any
man just
Republican in
ate
history
a fucking
by far.
hamster
In fact,
whole,
I got more
like
votes
alive.
than any president, sitting
He
president,
ate the little fucker
in
alive.
history by far.
Just
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump,
you know
called
who
this
else
the largest
probably has
domestic
eaten a
deportation operation
hamster?
in the history of our
JD
country. You
Vance.
say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You
I kind of
also
want to
said
do
you
a
would
poll.
use local
Like,
police.
who is
How
more
would
likely
you,
to have eaten a
deport
hamster?
11 million
JD
undocumented
Vance or
immigrants. I know
Riley?
you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them.
Did he
They
say
allowed
yeah?
criminals, many
Dude,
millions of
come on.
criminals.
That's some
They allowed
post-apocalyptic.
terrorists. They
That's
allowed
that is some
common street
authoritarian
criminals. They
shit. We're
allowed
not
people
doing
to
that,
come in,
dude.
drug
No.
dealers to come into our country, and they're now in the United States and told
My hamster
by
ate
their
my other
countries like
hamster.
Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in
Hold
countries
up.
all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their
Aren't
criminals off the
hamsters,
street
like,
and they've
isn't
given
there,
them
like,
to
some
her
scenarios where
to put
hamsters
into our
might actually
country.
do that
And
shit?
this
Like,
will be
eat their
one
own
of the
babies or
greatest
something?
mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably
JD
did it
Vance
'cause
has
they think
definitely
they're
eaten
gonna
a
get votes,
hamster.
but it's not worth it.
Yeah, I can
because
see it.
They're
I
destroying
can definitely
the
see it.
fabric of our
No,
country
no, no,
by
no,
what
no, no,
they've
no, no.
done. There's never been
Oh,
anything
that's
done like
good
this
rodent
at
right
all. They've
there.
destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world.
Yeah,
except here.
yeah,
Crime
hamsters
here
are-
is up and through
hamsters
the
are-
roof.
you know what?
Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a
Riley
new
is
form
like
of
the
crime.
human
It's called
version of a
migrant
hamster.
crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought
Yeah.
possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says
Yeah, hamsters are
overall
fucked
violent
up.
crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris, I'll
FBI
give you the-
they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich.
JD Vance
Coming
was
from
daring
someone
Paul to
who
eat a
has been
hamster. Thought it would make
prosecuted
him look cool.
for
I mean, mean,
national
listen, man.
security crimes,
We know some of the
economic
freaks that
crimes,
Trump has on
election
his campaign.
interference, has been
RFK
found
Jr.
liable for
threw
sexual
a
assault,
fucking
and
dead
his
baby
next
bear
big
into
court
Central
appearance
Park
is in November at
because
his
he
own
thought it would
criminal
be fucking
sentencing.
hilarious.
And let's be clear,
Would it,
where each person
given that we have
stands on the
RFK
issue of
Jr.
what
on
is
Trump's
important
campaign,
about
and
respect for
he
the rule of law
straight up
and
admitted to
respect
doing
for
some
law
shit like
enforcement,
that,
the former
would it
vice
really
president
surprise
called
anybody
for defunding
if JD Vance
federal
ate a
law
fucking
enforcement,
hamster?
45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those
I
cases
do have access
was
to AI
started by them
technology. I
against
could
their
actually
political
make that.
opponent. And I'm
Like,
winning
straight up,
most
I
of them,
could
and I
make a
will win
meme
the
of
rest
JD
on
Vance
appeal.
eating a
And you
hamster.
saw that with the decision that came
Don't
down just
tempt me
recently
with a
from
good
the Supreme
fucking
Court.
time.
I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Even Donald
victory.
Trump.
2 months ago, it was thrown out.
I mean, Donald Trump.
It's weaponization, and they
even
used
Donald
it, and it's
Trump
never
is
happened in this
JD
country. They used it
Like
to try
Donald
and win
Trump,
an election.
apparently
Fake
JD Vance
cases.
is like
President
really
Trump,
good
thank you.
friends
A
with
really quick
Don
response here, Vice
Jr.
President Harris, on this notion
And
of
I'm sure, like,
weaponization of
after
the
all the
Justice
crazy
Department.
shit
Well,
that
let's
is not
talk
about
about
JD
extreme
Vance,
and
Trump
understand
sat
the
down with
context
Don
in which
Jr.
this
and he's like,
election in 2024
Don
is taking
Jr.,
place.
you're no
The
longer
United
my
States
favorite
Supreme
son.
Court
My favorite
recently
son
ruled
now
that the
is
former president
Eric.
would essentially be
I love
immune
Eric. Eric's
from
a
any
smart one.
misconduct if he were to
I
enter the
regret
White
ever
House
having
again.
you, Don Jr.
Understand, this
Sit down,
is someone
John.
who has openly
Sit
said
down.
he would
Back
terminate,
to hell
I'm
with you.
quoting,
You
terminate
belong.
the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain.
No, wait a minute. I take
for
that back.
members of our
He sat down with Don
military.
Jr. and he was like,
What it would
Don
mean if
Jr.,
Donald
little
Trump were back in
Donnie,
the White House with
listen, I don't
no
like you no
guardrails,
more.
because
Your
certainly
friend
we know
JD
now the
Vance, he
court won't
sucks.
stop him.
He's
We know
weird.
JD
He's a
Vance
creep.
is not going
I
to
heard,
stop him.
I can't confirm
It's up
this,
to
but
the
I've
American
heard he
people
may have eaten a
Vice
hamster
President
in
Harris,
college.
Lindsay?
Vice
Kind of
President
weird
Harris,
dude.
in
I'm
your
just
last
saying.
run for
Listen, you're no
president.
longer my favorite son.
This is
My
the one
favorite
that
son
weaponized,
now
not me.
is
She
Tiffany.
weaponized.
Tiffany
I
is
probably
my
took a
favorite
bullet to
son.
the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a
President
fake Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get
went nowhere.
We have a lot
Trump
to get to. Lindsay?
literally
Vice President Harris, in your last run for
refused to
president,
give
you
up
said you wanted to
power
ban fracking.
and caused an
Now you don't.
insurrection.
You wanted mandatory government buyback
Biden
programs for
stepped
assault weapons.
aside
Now your campaign says
and
you
let
don't.
somebody
You
else be the
supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line.
This
I
whole
know you
threat to
say that your
democracy thing,
values have not
Donnie,
changed.
Donnie
so then
boy,
why have so many of your
little
policy
Donnie,
positions
little Donnie.
changed?
So my
I'm just
values have
saying,
not changed, and I'm gonna
actions
discuss
speak louder
every
than
one of
words.
at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance
Biden
on
still
foreign
stepped
oil.
aside.
We
Trump
have
never
had
did that.
the largest
Trump is still bitching
increase
and complaining
in
about
domestic
2022
oil
this
production
day.
in history
Biden
because
stepped
of an
aside.
approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking
No, so did
mother
I.
who worked and
I don't think
saved
Biden should
and
have
was
ever
able to
ran
buy
for
our
a second
first home
term.
when I was a teenager.
He even
The
said, like,
values I
during his
bring
first
to the
presidential
importance of
run,
home ownership, knowing
back in
not everybody
2020,
got
he said,
handed
He was going to be a
$400 million
transitory
on a
president.
silver platter and then file
And that's what he should have
bankruptcy
been.
6
He should have
times
never ran
is a
for a
value that I
second
bring
term.
to my work.
It was.
To
It
say
was.
we are going to
Honest to
work
God,
with the
I
private
think
sector and
I
home
think you could say that
builders
Joe
to
Biden ought
increase
to be charged with
3
elder
million
abuse.
homes,
Like straight
increase
up, I'm
by
just
3 million
saying.
homes by the end of my first term.
Democracy
My
is a
work
joke in
that
this
is
country. It's
related
just a
to
word to both
having
people.
a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather.
I mean,
and my focus then on
you're
protecting
not
women
wrong,
and children from
and I've said
violent
this
crime
before.
is based on a
We're not a
value
serious
that is
country.
deeply grounded in the importance
we don't
of standing up for
we
those
don't
who are
think
most vulnerable.
we're not very
My work
academically
that is about
inclined.
protecting
We're not a
Social
very
Security and
educated voter
Medicare
base,
is based on
and
long-standing
we
work
don't
that
really
I
have a
done,
comprehension of
protecting
the
seniors
issues.
from scams. My values
So
have
our
not
democracy is a bit of a
changed.
clown
And
show.
what is important
It
is
really
that there
is.
is a president who actually brings
You're not
values
wrong.
and a perspective that is about lifting people up and
Yeah,
not
Joe
beating
Biden.
people
Listen,
down and name calling.
Joe
true
Biden is
measure
not
of the
married to
leader
Joe Biden. Joe
is the
Biden is married
leader
to
who
power.
actually understands
I really
the
don't like
strength
Joe
is not in
Biden.
beating
I really
people
don't
down,
like her.
it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please.
Ooh,
Does that sound
that
familiar?
does not look good.
She went out in Minnesota.
Look,
and wanted to
do
let
I think
criminals
Kamala
that
Harris
killed
is going to give
people,
me
that
everything
burned
that I
down
want?
Minneapolis?
No.
She went out and
But
raised
I
money to
think
get
I'm
him
more
out of
likely
jail.
to
She
get
did things
more
that
of what I
nobody would
want
ever think of.
under
Now
a
she wants
Kamala
to do
Harris
transgender
administration than a
operations or
Trump
illegal aliens
administration.
that are in
Does
prison.
that mean she's going to be
This is a
perfect?
radical left
No.
liberal that would
Does that
do
mean
this.
she would have been my
She wants
first
to
choice as a
confiscate your
candidate?
guns, and she
No.
will never allow
But
fracking in Pennsylvania.
in
If she won the
politics, you
election,
don't let
fracking in
perfect
Pennsylvania
be the
will
enemy
end on
of the
day one.
good.
Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day
No, I
after that
don't. I don't
election,
think that she
they'll go
sucks.
back to destroying our country. And
No,
oil
I
will be
don't
dead,
think her
fossil fuel will
administration's
be
gonna
dead. We'll go back
suck.
to windmills,
No.
and we'll go back to
I think we
solar,
could get
where
some
they
really good
need a whole
stuff out of
desert
her
to get some
administration.
energy to come out of. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar. But they take
I wish she would go a little bit further on certain
400,
issues, but
500
do I think it's
acres
going to
of
suck?
desert
No, I don't
soil.
think it's going to
These are
suck.
not good things
I
for the
definitely think it's going to be
environment.
better than a Trump administration.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president.
Failure, they don't
in
have
a moment
control of
crisis.
Congress.
Mr. President, on January 6th,
Senate's
you told your
the
supporters to march
Senate
to the Capitol.
majority
You said you would be
is
right
in
there with
control of the
them.
Republican
The country and the
Party.
world saw what played out at the
I'm
Capitol
sorry, not
that
the
day.
Senate majority.
Officers
The
coming under attack.
the House of
Aides in the West Wing
Representatives
say you
is
watched
under
it
the
unfold
control
on
of the
television
Republican
off the
Party.
Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent
They
out
they
that
can't
video
get anything
message,
passed because the
telling your
Republican
supporters to go home.
House would not
Is
pass
there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
They have to
You
get a
just
majority
said
in Congress.
a thing that isn't covered peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, go back
Peacefully
and watch Schoolhouse
and
Rock.
patriotically.
Trying to
And
get
nobody
things
on the
turned into
other side
laws
was
is
killed.
really fucking
Ashley
difficult
Babbitt
in
was
this
shot
country.
by an out-of-control police
Even when you
officer
do have the
that
majority,
should
it's
have
very
never,
difficult.
ever
And it was
shot her.
designed to be
It's a
slow and difficult.
disgrace.
It was
But
designed that
we
way on
didn't do
purpose.
this group of people
In order
that
to
have
make
been
the
treated so
politicians
badly.
and the elected
I ask,
leaders
what about
to
all the
think
people that are
about what
pouring
they're
into our country and
crafting,
killing
what
people
policies they're
that she
crafting
allowed
into
to pour in?
laws.
She was the border
It's to
czar,
give them
remember
time
that.
to be
She
contemplated
was
played
the
it.
border czar. She
At least
doesn't want-
that
he
was
called
the
her
idea
borders up
behind
because
it.
she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle?
Failure, I don't
They
know
went
what to
into
tell you.
Seattle,
This
they
is the
took over a
system we
big
live in.
percentage of the city
And
of
I
Seattle.
could
When are
honestly
those
make an
people gonna be
argument
prosecuted?
that we need to
But let me
change
just
the
ask
You might ask her
system.
that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on
Because I think
television.
you can
It's
make
a
an
very simple
argument
question as we move
that
forward toward another
the
election.
way the government
Is there
is
anything you
designed in the
regret about what you
Constitution
did
is
on that day?
outdated, and
Yes,
it
sir.
was
I
not
had nothing
designed
to
for a
do with
country
that
as
other
large
than
as
they
what
asked
we've
me to make a
become.
speech. I showed up for a speech.
I think you
said,
can make
I
that
think it's gonna
argument.
be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi
And there's
the
people that
mayor
have
of
made that
Washington,
argument
D.C.,
that the way that
and
the government
mayor
is
put it back
structured in the
writing, as you
Constitution
know.
is outdated,
I said, you know,
and
this is going to
it's
be
not
a very
it's
big
not working
rally or
well
whatever you want to call it.
for
And again, it wasn't done
the
by me. It was done
size
by
and
others. I
scope
said, I'd
and
like to give you
status
10,000
that
National
our
Guard
country has
or
achieved
soldiers.
since then.
They
Remember,
rejected me.
this is a
Nancy
document
Pelosi
that was
rejected me. It
crafted
was just
over
2 weeks
2
ago. Her daughter
centuries
has
ago.
a tape of her
Do you
saying
know how
she
much
is
the
fully
country has
responsible for what
changed
happened.
in those
They
2
want to get rid of that
centuries?
tape. It would have
The
never
world that the
happened
founding
if
fathers
Nancy
were living
Pelosi
in
and the
is
mayor
almost
of
alien
Washington did
compared to
their
what we
jobs.
live in
I
today.
wasn't responsible for security.
We live in a
Nancy
completely
Pelosi
different
was
world.
responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was
I
at the
mean,
Capitol
good
on
for
January
you,
6th.
but I'm more
I was
interested in the
the vice
larger
president-elect. I was also an
societal
actual senator.
issues
I was there.
and the
And
stability
on
of the
that
country
day,
as a whole. And
the
I think
president of the United States
that is
incited
going
a
to
violent
flourish more
mob
under Kamala.
to attack
I'm not really interested in my
our nation's
individual well-being or anybody else's individual
our
well-being.
nation's
I'm
capital.
interested
On
in the
that day,
larger societal good,
140 law enforcement officers
which I
were
think is
injured,
going to benefit
and
everybody.
some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason.
You're not wrong.
But this is not
You're not
an
wrong.
isolated
America's
situation.
been stagnant for
Let's
50
remember
years.
Charlottesville,
America has been stagnant for 50
where
years.
there was a
And it's going to take a long time to dig ourselves out of this hole.
spewing anti-Semitic
Yeah, again, Thomas
hate.
Paine was talking about UBI.
And what did the president
That was
then
over
at the
200
time
years ago,
say?
man.
There were
UBI.
fine people on
we,
each
we,
side.
we need it.
Let's remember.
Shout out to
that
the Yang
when it
Gang,
came
by
to
the way.
Proud Boys, a militia. The former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
System is broken. Congress needs term limits. I agree with that. I agree with that.
To energy because they have
Flat
destroyed
tax.
our energy business. That was what bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been,
That's
as you would
kind
say,
of
debunked.
regressive.
Laura Ingraham,
Yeah, a
Sean
flat tax is
Hannity,
regressive.
Jesse, all of these people.
You can
they
tax the
covered
rich
it.
more
If they
and it
go
will
an
not
extra
affect the
sentence,
quality
they
of
will
life
see it
at
was
all.
Perfect. It was
So
debunked in almost
I'm
every
not really in
newspaper,
favor of a flat
but they still
tax.
bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring.
But
all
I
of
do
this
agree
stuff
with
up.
term
I
limits
ask
and
you this,
UBI.
You talk about
See, the thing is, if you have UBI,
why
the
are we
flat tax
allowing
doesn't work.
these millions of
You
people
need to have a
come through
progressive
on the
tax in
southern
order
border. How
to
come she's not
have
doing anything?
UBI.
And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills.
Where are you going
They
to get
have
the
the
money
right
for
to
the
do it. The
UBI under a
President of the
flat
United
tax?
States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill,
The only benefit I could see of a flat tax is that it would eliminate any kind of tax loophole.
Mr. President,
So it would okay, yeah, exactly.
we talked
Exactly.
here
See,
tonight.
I do agree with you that it would eliminate the tax
it really brings
loopholes
us
because
this into focus. Truth,
and that
in
way
these times that
the
we're
rich
living
wouldn't
in.
be able to.
Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the
go through all
2020
these
election, you
backhanded
repeatedly
schemes in order
falsely claimed
to
that you won,
not
many
pay
times
certain
saying you won
taxes.
in a landslide.
That
In the
is
past couple
true,
of weeks
but
leading up to this debate,
overall, I
you
do
have
think
said,
there needs to
quote,
be
"You
some
lost
kind of
by a
tax
whisker,"
bracket
that you, quote, didn't
because the
quite
rich
make
can
it,
literally
and you came up a little
afford
bit
to pay
short.
more, and it's
Are
not going to
you
affect
are
the
you
quality
now
of life.
acknowledging that you
Oh
lost in
no!
2020?
I have to pay
But you did say
more to the government. I can't afford
We said,
that.
oh, we lost by a
yacht.
whisker. That was said
Yeah, I don't.
sarcastically.
Dude.
Look,
You
there's
can
so
do
much
fine with
proof.
2
All you
yachts.
have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to
I
the
don't think term limits would
legislatures for
work. We
approval.
just have less
I got
politicians
almost
for the people.
75 million votes.
Maybe
the
if the
most votes any
politicians didn't
sitting
get
president
paid.
has ever gotten. I was
No,
told if
I think
got
term
63,
limits.
which was what I got in
I
2016.
think term limits
you
would
can't
work.
be beaten. The election,
But
people should never be thinking
we'd
about
probably
an
have to have a
election as fraudulent.
constitutional
We need 2 things.
convention
We need walls,
in order for that to
we
happen.
need, and we have to have it.
Because they're
We
never
have to
going.
have
They're never going to
borders,
vote term
and we have
limits
to have
onto
good
themselves.
elections. Our
You have to make it a
elections are
constitutional
bad.
amendment.
And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get
Now
them
that
to
I
vote.
agree
And
with.
that's why they're allowing
That I
them
agree
to
with.
come into our country.
If you
I did
make
watch all
under a
these
certain
pieces of
amount of
video.
money,
I
you shouldn't
didn't
be
detect
taxed.
the sarcasm. Lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it.
You shouldn't be
And
taxed.
we should just point out here,
That
as
I
clarification,
agree
and you
with.
know this.
That I
you
can
and your allies, 60
absolutely
cases
agree with.
in front of many judges, many of them
No judge
Republican,
looked at it.
and said
They
there was
said
no.
we
Yeah, if
didn't
you're
have
making
standing.
$20,000
That's the
a
other
year
thing. They said we didn't have standing.
as
a
an
technicality.
individual,
Can you
I mean,
imagine a system
that's like damn
where
near
a
poverty.
person in an election doesn't
And
have standing?
yeah, I don't
the
think you should be
President of the
taxed if you're
United
making
States
that
doesn't
little
have
amount of
standing.
money.
That's how
I
we
agree
lost.
with that.
If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter. Because
I
we
would
have to
still
solve
want
the
the rich
problem
to
that we
pay
have right
more,
now. That's old
but
news. And the problem that we have right now
at the same
is we
time,
have a
I'll
nation in
this
decline.
minute.
And they have
I
put
would
it
rather
into
have
decline.
this tax
We have a
system
nation that is
than I
dying,
would
David.
the
Mr.
one
President,
that we
thank
do
you.
now.
Vice President Harris, you
I'll
heard the
agree with
president
you
there
on
tonight.
that.
He said he didn't
I
say
like
that he
your
lost by a
tax
whisker, so he
system
still
better than
believes
the one
he
we
did
have
not
now.
lose the
Because the
election,
one we have now is
that was
so
won by
fucking
President
exploitable.
Biden, and
It's
yourself.
ridiculous.
But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And
Damn.
clearly he is having a very difficult
All right,
time
see that
processing
touched a nerve. You can just tell
But
that touched
we
a nerve.
cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election, it leads one to believe
I won't call you
that
a Republican.
perhaps we do
See,
not
I
have
wouldn't even
in the
describe
candidate
myself
to
as a
my right
Democrat.
the temperament
I would describe myself as an
or
independent.
the ability to not be
But in terms of political
confused
leanings, I
about
used to be
facts.
like
That's deeply troubling, and the American people
I used to be like
deserve
center
better.
right.
I'll give
But
you 1 minute to respond.
in the last,
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor
Excuse me.
Orban, one of the most
the last
respected men,
year,
they
I
call him a
think
strong
he's
man.
center left
He's a tough person.
in terms of political
Smart.
leanings.
Prime Minister of Hungary.
Like, there's some
They said,
things that
why
I
is the
vehemently
whole world
disagree with the left
blowing
on.
up? 3 years ago it wasn't.
Um,
Why is it blowing up?
Like, I'm way
He
more
said because
pro-life
you
than what the
need
Democrats
Trump
would
back
prefer.
as president.
But
They were
for the
afraid of
most
him.
part, like,
China
I would
was
say that I
afraid,
am
and I
more
don't like to
center
use the
left
word
these
afraid,
days
but
than
I'm
I
just
am center
quoting
right.
him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid
I'm
of
mostly
him.
center
Look at
left
what's
when it
going
comes
on with
to
North Korea,
economic
by the way.
issues,
He said
and
Russia was afraid of
when
him.
it comes
I
to
ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden
like
put it back on day one, but he ended the
social
XL
welfare,
pipeline. The XL
social
pipeline
programs
in our
and stuff.
country. He ended
Like,
that.
really
But
on
he
the
let the
economics,
Russians
I'm
build a
more
pipeline
left
going all over
than I
Europe
am
and
right.
heading into Germany, the
Whereas
biggest pipeline
on
in
social
the world.
issues,
Look,
I'm probably
Viktor
more right than I
Orban
am left,
said it. He said the
which is
most
a
respected,
combination you
most
don't
feared
see very much,
person is
to
Donald
be
Trump.
honest. But
We had no
that's kind of where
problems
I'm
when
at.
Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that
If
you
I was
saw
living
at
in a
a debate
European
just a few
country,
months ago, that if
I
he
would
weren't in
probably be
that debate,
considered
he'd be running
conservative.
instead of her. She
I'm
got no
only
votes.
really
He got
considered left
14
in any
million votes.
regards
What you
because
did,
I'm living
you
in
talk about a
America.
threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held.
Okay, now this
Americans
is where
among
she
them.
could really
Vice
slip
President
up.
Harris,
If we're
in
talking
December,
about
you
Israel,
said, quote, Israel
she's
has a
got to
right to
tread
defend
very
itself, but you
carefully
added,
here
quote, it
and
matters
not piss
how,
off
saying
the Arab
international
American
humanitarian
voters.
law must be respected.
She could really mess
Israel
up here,
must
so
do
she's
more
got
to
to tread
protect
carefully.
innocent
She's
civilians.
really got to
You said that 9 months
tiptoe.
ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed, children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you
I did that
always,
years ago,
I will
and I was
always
definitely
give
more
Israel the
conservative.
ability to defend
I
itself,
took it
in
again
particular
like
as it relates to
few months ago,
relates to Iran,
and yeah, I've
any
definitely
threat
shifted
that
left.
Iran and its proxies pose to
I mean,
Israel.
I'm still
But
pretty
we must
close
have
to
a
the
two-state
middle.
solution where we can
I've gone from the
rebuild
right to the
Gaza,
left.
where the Palestinians have
Clearly.
security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years.
Holy,
have
it
gone
did
into
not.
Ukraine
No
and killed
way.
millions of people when you add it up.
No
Far worse than people
way. It
understand
did
what's going on
not.
over there. But when she mentions
Really?
about Israel, all of
What
a sudden,
kind of test was
she
this
hates
shit?
Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone.
Oh my God.
It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now
See,
Iran has
this is,
$300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas
See,
or Hezbollah
this
or any
is
of the
going
28
to
different spheres of
this is going to
terror.
come off
And
as
they
really
are
unhinged
spheres
to
of
the
terror,
average voter.
horrible terror.
What he's
They
doing
had
right
no money.
here.
It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well,
I'm pretty
actually.
racist against
they
the
had
whites.
no money for terror.
I
They
mean,
were
I'm pretty
broke.
racist against
Now
JD
they're a
Vance.
rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that
I guess you
money
could say
around.
that. I'm pretty racist
Look
against
at what's
JD
happening
Vance.
with the Houthis and Yemen.
I think
Look
it told
at
me I'm
what's
an
going on in the
authoritarian
Middle East.
conservative.
This would have
Ooh.
never happened. I will get
Dude,
that
I don't care if
settled
you're on the
and
right
fast,
or
and
the
I'll get
left. You
war
shouldn't be an
with Ukraine
authoritarian
and Russia
anything.
ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin.
He did say that shit.
He
Let me
can
be a
do
dictator for
whatever the
one
hell he
day.
wants
For one
and go
day.
into
He
Ukraine.
did say that shit.
It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well
Failure,
known
I'm
he
sorry, but I can
exchanged
never get
love
behind
letters
social
with Kim
Darwinism. I think
Jong-un,
social Darwinism is
and
evil.
it is absolutely
I think
well
it's
known
that was like some
that these
early 20th
dictators
century
and
bullshit,
autocrats are rooting
and it can
for
stay in the
you
early
to be
20th
president
century for
again
all I
because
care.
they're so clear. They can manipulate you.
I'll never
with flattery
understand how
and
you got
favors.
wrapped up in that type of
And
ideology.
that is why
I'll never understand it.
so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten
fuck
away
is he
with
talking
is
about?
absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go
I
in and kill the
don't agree with
Keystone
social
Pipeline
Darwinism
and approve the
because you're
single
making a
biggest
judgment
deal
on
that
the inherent
Russia's ever
value
made,
of
Nord Stream
certain
2, the
people.
biggest pipeline anywhere in the world, going
And
to Germany and all over Europe.
I don't believe in that
because they're
because,
weak
and again,
and
like
they're
I think you've
ineffective.
said you're not
And
religious.
Biden, by the way, gets
President
paid a lot
I
of
consider
money.
myself to be a
Thank you. We have a lot of
spiritual
issues to get
person.
to.
We'll be
I
right back
can't
with much more
believe
of this
that
historic
because I
ABC
believe
News
in the
presidential
inherent
debate from the
value of
National
every human
Constitution Center
being.
right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
And I believe that every single person has an inherent value because I believe every person has a spark of the divine. That's
will continue after this.
so to me that's again that's why I can never accept social Darwinism. I'm not going to make that judgment.
Regular day for 19-year-old Melissa Witt.
We need to mute that. Let's see. I don't mind a little good guy happy. I do mind significantly. No fascism. No, nada. And let me be clear, no communism either. They're both terrible. They're both terrible. So failure was talking about like in terms of views. But that's not the traditional definition of social Darwinism. Social Darwinism has to do with the inherent value of a person. So like, well, if you can't survive, you're not, then maybe you shouldn't survive at all. Like you like you like if you're poor and you can't get food, then you deserve to die, because if you were deserving of life, you would be able to get food. And I just don't agree with that, because that is the mentality of the animal kingdom. And I believe that we need to rise above that. We need to transcend that type of mentality, because I believe in a progressive evolution of the human person, in that eventually we should even transcend our own humanity and become something better and more morally and spiritually awakened. And I think that's the same thing that all of the religions talk about. Christianity calls it being born again. Um, the Eastern religions call it enlightenment. It's this idea of a fundamental spiritual change of humanity. And I think that's what we have to get to. We have to become morally better. Darwinism's ideologies don't fit for modern society anymore. Yeah, I don't agree with any. I just don't agree with Darwinism. I don't. I think it's completely outdated. A little good guy fascism isn't. No. Now, what do you mean by good guy fat? Like, I don't know what like the good guy part means. Is that a reference to something? Like, is it just going over my head? Because I don't know exactly what that means. But I don't think that's, again, I don't know how that's social Darwinism. Because social Darwinism, like I can pull up the definition of social Darwinism. Like, social Darwinism is a set of pseudo-scientific theories that apply Darwin's theory of evolution to society, economics, and politics. Is based on the idea that the laws of nature can be used to explain and justify social inequalities and competition. I don't believe that's true, because I think social inequalities and competition is an artificial construct created by human beings. I don't think it's natural. I just don't. And then there's like some other things here, like the powerful in society are innately better than the weak. I don't agree with that. I think a lot of times they got lucky. Success is proof of superiority. That's some Puritan shit. I don't believe in that. Again, people can just get fucking lucky. There's a lot of dumbass social media influencers that got fucking lucky. Look at Mr. Beast. Certain classes of society or ethnic groups are more advanced than others. It depends on what you mean by that. Like, obviously, cultures that practice cannibalism are inferior to cultures that don't practice cannibalism. The relationship between social classes is a natural consequence of evolution. That's just fucking stupid. That's taking a biological fact and conflating it with a societal situation. Anyways, back to the debate.
The National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back.
Oh, it's
to
a
this historic
meme?
ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue.
Yeah,
here, and I
it
want
just
to
went
turn to
over
the
my
war in
head, dude.
Ukraine.
I'm
We're now
sorry.
2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy.
Well, again,
that it's in
failure.
America's best interest to do so. Arguing
Just
that
do
if
a little
Putin
bit more
wins,
research
he may be emboldened to
and
move even further into other countries. You have said
You
you
know,
would
try
solve this
and,
war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly
like,
would you do that?
and
And
like,
I want to ask you a very simple
there's
question
times like
tonight.
when
Do you
I
want
need to do this
Ukraine
myself
to win this war?
I want the
do a little
war
bit
to
more
stop.
research
I
and
want to
try
save lives
to
that are being uselessly
condense
people
and
being killed
create
by
a more
the millions.
concise,
It's the
focused
millions.
argument
It's so much
for your
worse
views,
than
and
the
it'll make
numbers
it
that you're
easier
getting
for
with
other
your
people
fake
to
numbers.
understand. I've had issues doing that
We're in
myself,
for
but
250
that's
billion
why
or
when it
more,
comes to developing an
because they don't
ideology,
ask
it takes
Europe,
a
which is
long time.
much
Like, it doesn't
bigger
just
beneficiary to
happen
getting
overnight.
this
It
thing
takes
done
years and years and
than we
years,
are.
and that's fine. That's
They're
part
in
of
for
life. That's part of
$150
living.
billion
That's part of
less
experiencing. That's part
because
of learning.
Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe, like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a
31.
good
I'll be
relationship,
32
and they
in
respect
December.
your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left.
Yeah, I've actually
I said,
had people that
he
are
must be
surprised
negotiating.
about
It
how
must be a
young
good,
I
strong
am.
point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because
I remember when I
Biden
was on
had no
Tony's
idea
stream,
how to talk to him.
Tony
He
was
had
actually
no idea
surprised
how
that
to
I was as
stop
young
it.
as I was.
And now you have millions of
He
people
thought I was
dead,
older.
and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up.
Holy shit! Did he really? I
do you
mean,
believe it's in the
to be
US
fair,
best
he's
interest
not
for
wrong. Like
Ukraine to win
Biden's
this war? Yes or
cognitive
no?
I think
abilities
it's the
are
U.S.
really
best
fucking
interest
off.
to get this war
But at the
finished
same
and
time, like,
just get it done.
I can't
Negotiate a
believe he
deal,
just said
because we
that
have to
shit.
stop
That's
all of
wild.
these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give
He's
it
got
up.
that look on his face.
And that's not
I
who we
miss
are as
Sleepy
Americans.
Joe.
Let's
I miss him
understand what
so
happened
much.
here. I actually
Biden, come
met
back.
with Zelensky
I
a
should
few
have
days
never
before
set you
Russia
free.
invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland
Oh no,
and
I
Romania.
absolutely agree with you on
And
that.
through the work that I and others did, we
I've
brought
voted
50 countries
Republican in the
together
past.
to support Ukraine in its
I've been a
righteous
Republican
defense.
before.
And because of
Um,
our support,
but I
because
started
of
to
the
think independently.
air defense, the ammunition,
And
the
I realized,
artillery,
you know
the
what? I
javelins,
think I'm
the
a little bit
Abrams
more
tanks
left.
that we have
But I wouldn't
provided.
call myself a
Ukraine
Democrat.
stands as an
And I'm not
independent
going to
and free
vote based
country.
on just
If Donald
one
Trump were
person
president, Putin would
or
be sitting in Kyiv
one
right now.
personality. I'm
And
not going to do
understand
that
what
shit.
that would
That's one of the
mean,
things that
because
turned me off
Putin's
from Trump
agenda
so much,
is
because it's
not
become a
just
cult of
about Ukraine.
personality, and I'm not interested in that
why
shit.
the
Fuck
European
that.
allies and our
No.
NATO
I want to vote on
allies
principles.
are so
I want to vote on
thankful
facts. I
that
want to
you
vote on
are no
evidence.
longer
I want to vote on
president,
free, independent
and that
thought, and that's
we
exactly what I'm going to do.
understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is
Because
NATO.
I've never
and
actually
what we
voted
have done
Democrat before.
to
This is going to be the
preserve
first
the
election where I
ability of
actually vote for a
Zelensky and the
Democrat
Ukrainians to fight for their
in my
independence.
life.
Otherwise,
If
Putin
that
would be
tells you
sitting in
anything.
Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans
And one of the
right
reasons I'm
here in
going to do that is because I
Pennsylvania
want Trump to lose,
quickly
because
you
I
would
want the
give up
Republican Party
for the
to
sake of
reform itself
favor
and to get
and
better.
what you think
And I
is
think
a
the Republican
friendship
Party needs a
with
wake up
what is
call.
known to be a
That's
dictator
one of the
who would
reasons among
eat you
many
for lunch.
that I'm going to be voting Democrat this year.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons.
I think that's true
Nobody
on
ever
some
thinks about that.
issues, but
And
there's
eventually,
some issues
maybe
that if
he'll
it's
use 'em, and
affecting the
maybe he
country
hasn't been that
and
threatening,
affecting your
but
community,
he does have
it's
that.
going to
Something we
affect
don't
your
even like to
family
talk about.
as a
Nobody likes to
result.
talk about it. But just so
Because
you
there's some
understand,
issues
they
that
sent
are,
her to
and not even
negotiate
just your
peace
country, but
before this
also
war started.
globally.
3
Like there's
days
some
later,
issues
he went
globally
in and
that
he
are also
started the
going to
war
overlap and
because
affect your
everything they
family.
said
So
was
you have to
weak
think
and
about everything
stupid.
as a
They
whole.
said the
You
wrong
can't just
things.
look at
That
it
war
from an
should have never
individual
started.
and
She was
family
the
standpoint.
emissary.
You have
They
to look at
sent
the
her in
greater
to
whole and make a
negotiate with
decision based on that.
Zelensky and Putin.
I
And
guess
she
in that
did.
sense, I'm
And the
much more
war
of a
started
macro
3 days
thinker than I
later.
am a
And
micro
that's the
thinker.
kind of
Like
talent
I
we
care
have
way
with her.
more about the
She's
bigger
worse than
picture
Biden. In
and
my
the
opinion,
macro
I think
view
he's
than I
the
do
worst
about the micro
president in the
view.
history of our country. She
Um,
goes down
and
as the
that's
worst
just
vice
just always how
president in the
my
history of our
mind has
country. But
worked.
let me tell you something.
Is that I'm much
She
more
is a
interested in the macro
horrible
view.
negotiator. They sent her in
It's
to
easier for me
negotiate.
to
As soon as they left,
contemplate those
Putin
type of
did the
issues.
invasion.
President
To be
Trump, thank
honest.
you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows
No,
strength, understanding
you're right
that
about
the
that.
alliances we have around the world
The
are
average American
dependent
needs to
on
become
our ability
smarter
to
and
look
more
out for
informed.
our friends and
The
not
average American is
favor
really not
our
that fucking
enemies
smart.
because you adore strongmen
And honestly,
instead of
that's one of
caring
the things
about
that she's actually
democracy.
making.
And that is
She's actually
very
doing
much
very
what is
well.
at stake
She's not
here.
getting
The
into
President of
gas,
the United States is
daycares,
commander-in-chief.
all of
And
this
the American
bull
people
crap that
have a
that goes
right
over
to
people's heads
rely
because they're too stupid
on
to
a
understand it.
president who
She's actually
understands
just
the
talking about in
significance of
generality.
America's
She's
role
basing
and
things off of
responsibility
emotion, and that's
in
going to
terms of
resonate and stick with
ensuring
people
that
much
there is
more
stability
because that's the
and
type of
ensuring
country we live in.
stand up for our
Biden was way
principles and
too
not
focused on the
sell them
stats,
for the,
and it just
for
went
the
over people's heads,
benefit of
and they
personal
didn't care.
flattery.
They didn't
You
care.
talked about Ukraine
So
and
she's
Vladimir
actually
Putin. I
doing
do want to talk
a
about
much
Afghanistan. It
better
came up in
job
the
in that
first hour
regard
of
than
this
Biden
debate.
ever did.
I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's
I
ever
I
seen
get
done.
it.
Thank you. I want to
But-
turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol
Again,
Hill
cynic,
honoring the
like,
soldiers
my
who
mind
died
just doesn't
in the
work that
chaotic
way.
withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do
Um,
want to ask the Vice President.
It
do
never
you
has.
believe you
Ever
bear
since I
any
was a kid,
responsibility
my
in
mind
the
has
way
never worked
withdrawal
that way.
played out?
I'm always
Well, I will
thinking
tell you, I
about
agreed with
the bigger
President Biden's
picture in any
decision to
situation.
pull out of Afghanistan.
And
4 presidents said they would.
I don't
and
think
Joe
I can
Biden
change
did.
that. I think that's just
And
how I'm
as a
wired.
result,
That's just how my brain
America's
works.
taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as
There's
of
some
today,
truth to that.
there is
There's
not
actually a lot of
one
truth to that.
member of the United
Um,
States military who is in
That's not true of
active
every
duty in a
politician,
combat zone
but
in
that
any
is true
war
of a
zone
large
around the world, the
swath of
first time this
politicians.
century.
You're not
But
wrong
let's
about that.
understand
They
how we
want you to
got
be stupid.
to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even
Yeah,
his
I
national
mean,
security
again, I
advisor
get it.
said
It's
it was a
just
weak, terrible deal. And
I don't
here's how
think
it
I
went
could
down.
ever think like that
He
because I would
bypassed
literally
the
have to
Afghan
rewire
government.
my brain.
He
I
negotiated
just don't think
directly
it's
with a
possible for me
terrorist
to
organization
not
called the
think in macro
Taliban.
terms
The
because
negotiation
that's how
involved
I've
the
always
Taliban
thought
getting
ever since. I
5,000
mean, that's just how I
terrorists,
learned
Taliban
because I'm
terrorists
always like,
released.
I
And
don't,
get
I don't
this,
get
no, get
this, I
this.
don't get that, I don't
And
understand this.
the
But
president
once you
at the
start putting it
time
together and you
invited the
start showing me
Taliban
how
to Camp
everything connects to
David,
one another
a
to
place
create
of
like a
storied
larger
significance
picture,
for
to
us
create
as
like a
Americans, a
larger
place where we
um,
honor the
blueprint of how
importance of
all this
American
connects and why it
diplomacy,
is
where
the way
we
that it is.
invite and
It's like,
receive
okay, now I get
respected
it,
world
but I have to
leaders.
see the bigger picture
And
in order
this
to understand it. Otherwise, I'm
president,
just
as
not going to
president,
care.
invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect.
I think that goes.
And this gets back to
I think that goes back
point
to
of how he has
the
consistently
immigrants
disparaged
taking
and
jobs
demeaned
thing. Is
members
that
of our military,
I
fallen
understand that it
soldiers,
is a problem on
work
a
that we
micro
must do to
level, but on a
uphold
macro
the
level,
strength
it's not going to
and the
matter
respect
because
of the United
automation's going to
States of
take those
America around the
jobs, and
world.
Vice President
there's
Harris,
going to be
thank you.
more
President Trump, your
more
response
people
to
than there
her
are
saying that you began
jobs
the
in
negotiations with
thank
the
you.
a
Taliban.
generation. And in the long
If
term,
you
it
take a
doesn't
look at that
matter.
period
So
of
why
time,
should I care?
the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban.
I
because
think
the
there's a
Taliban
lot
was
of
doing the
people that
killing.
do
That's
want
the
better
fighting
for
force
themselves,
within
but they don't have
Afghanistan.
the
They don't bother doing
resources
that because,
or
they deal
the
with their own
avenues
people
in
all the
order
time.
to become better.
But I got involved.
So,
And
like, for example, how
Abdullah
are you
is the
supposed to
head of the
learn if you
Taliban.
don't
He
have
is still the
access
head
to
of the
education?
Taliban.
How
And
are
I
you
told
how are
Abdullah,
you
don't do
supposed
it
to get
anymore. You do
healthier
it
if you
anymore, you're
can't
gonna have
afford health
problems.
care?
And he said, why do you
And
send me a picture
some
of my
people just
house? I
get
said,
so
you're gonna have to
beaten
figure
down
that
by
out,
life
Abdul.
that they
And for
just give
18
up.
months,
And it's not
we had
because they
nobody
wanted to
killed.
give up.
We did
They
have an
just didn't
agreement
have any
negotiated
hope.
by Mike
So you have to
Pompeo.
give
It
them
was a very
hope.
good agreement. The reason it was good, it was
Now, it's true.
we were
Some
getting
people
out.
don't
We
want
would
to
have been
get
out
better,
faster than them,
but I
we
think
wouldn't
that's
have
the
lost the
minority.
soldiers. We wouldn't have left
I
many
think most
Americans
people have
behind,
just
and
given up.
we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't
Oh no,
do
I
what
listen.
they were
I've
supposed
been
to
burned
do.
by the
I wanna move
system
And
for
these
sure.
people did the worst withdrawal.
I just have to
and
keep
in
having
my
hope.
opinion, the most
Because here's the
embarrassing
thing: if I
moment in the
gave up
history of
on
our
trying to
country-
change
and by the
things
way,
on
that's why
a
Russia
large
attacked
scale,
Ukraine, because they saw how
why am I here?
incompetent she
What's the point of
and her
living?
boss are.
For my own personal happiness, big
I want to
deal.
move on now to race
When
and
I die,
politics in
that
this country.
happiness
Mr.
disappears.
President, you
But
recently
if I
said
can
of
do
Vice
something
President
to make
Harris,
the
quote,
world
I
better,
didn't know she was black
that's a
until
legacy
number of
that
years ago
outlives me.
when she happened
That
to turn
immortalizes
black, and
me.
now she wants to be
That's
known
what
as
fucking
black.
matters.
I want to ask a bigger
So I'm
picture
not
question
interested
here
in
tonight.
personal happiness.
Why do you believe
I'm
it's
interested
appropriate to weigh
in making
in
the
on
world
the
a better
racial
place.
identity of your opponent?
Because
I
that's
don't,
going to
and I
have
don't
more of an
care.
impact.
I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I don't
asking.
know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she
And,
put
and
out.
that may just be how your
And
brain is
I'll say
wired.
that. And then I read that she was black.
You
and
can't
that's
help that
okay.
any more
knew
than
it
I
was
can help
okay
being
with me.
macro
That's
wired.
up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this.
I do
Want
pay
someone
attention to
who
both.
understands
I
as
just
I do, I
find
travel our country.
the macro stuff to
We
be
see
far more
in each
interesting.
other a
I just
friend.
care about
We
it way
see
more.
in each other a neighbor. We
Because I
don't
think if you get the
want a
micro
leader who
right,
is
the
constantly
macro will
trying to
reflect
have
that.
Americans
Because
point
I
their
personally,
fingers at each other.
I personally have a
I meet
philosophy
with people
that the
all
macro
the time
reflects,
who tell
or
me,
the micro
can we please just
reflects.
have discourse about how we're going to invest
Sorry,
in
guys,
the
I've got a cough tonight.
aspirations and the
I
ambitions
personally
and the
believe that
dreams
the
of the American
micro
people.
reflects the macro,
Knowing
and
that
the macro
regardless
reflects the
of
micro.
people's
And what I
color
mean
or
by
the
that
language
is,
their grandmother
what is
speaks,
true
we
on a
all
macro level
have
is
the same
also true
dreams
on a
and
micro
aspirations
level,
and want a
and
president
they
who
reflect one
invests
another.
in those,
And I guess
not
this
in
comes
hate
from
and
the fact that
division.
I believe in a lot of
President
Eastern
Harris,
philosophy.
Lindsay?
President
So
Trump, this is
look
now
into
your
something
third
like
time.
Taoism, like
This
the
is the
human
most
person
divisive
is a
presidency
microcosm
in the
of the
history of our
universe. So
country.
the universe
There's
is
never
the
been anything
macro,
like it.
the
They're
human being is
destroying our
micro,
country,
but they're
and they come up
reflections
with
of each
things
other.
like what she
And
just
I believe
said.
that's a
Going back
universal
many,
law
many
that applies
years,
to
when a lot of people,
everything,
including Mayor Bloomberg,
not just
agreed
in
with me
nature,
on the
but
Central Park
also
5. They
in
admitted, they
society. society.
said. They
I believe
pled
that's true.
guilty. And I said, well, if they
So
pled
in my
guilty, they
thinking, if you get the
badly
macro
hurt a
right,
person,
the
killed a
micro
person
is going to
ultimately.
benefit from it.
And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger.
And I'll give you an example.
But they're destroying our economy.
So if
They
you have
no
like
idea
a
what
a
good
universal
economy is.
healthcare system, if
Their oil
everybody has
policies,
access
every
to
single
healthcare,
policy.
all
And
of a
remember
sudden you
this,
fix a bunch of other issues.
she is Biden.
Mental
You know,
health
she's trying to get away from
starts to
Biden. I don't
improve in
know
this
the gentleman,
country.
she says.
Obesity
She is
levels
Biden.
will go down.
The worst
People will start
inflation
living
we've ever
longer.
had,
Heart
a
disease is going to
horrible economy
decrease.
because inflation has made
Infant
it so
mortality
bad,
rates are going to
and she can't
decrease.
get away with that.
So when you make that macro policy,
Briefly.
it affects so many things that
Clearly,
are under the
I'm not Joe
umbrella of
Biden,
that macro
and I am
policy.
certainly
And that's
not
why I
Donald
care more
Trump.
about the macro policy,
And what I
because I
do
think
offer
in the
is a
long
new
term,
generation of
it
leadership for our
fixes a lot
country.
of smaller
One who
issues.
believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our
Oh no,
plans.
you're
And-
absolutely right. You're
and
absolutely
let's
right.
compare the
Like
plans. I
I
have a plan to give startup
I
businesses
am way more in tune with
$50,000
Asian
tax
culture than I am
deduction
American culture.
to
I fucking hate
pursue
American
their
culture.
ambitions, their
I think American
innovation, their
culture is so
ideas, their hard
cancerous and just
work. I
rotten
have a
from the
plan,
inside out.
$6,000
and
for young families
this is what
for
you have
the
to
first year of your
understand.
child's life. To
I
help
love my
you
country
in that most critical
and I
stage
love
of your child's
America
development. I have a
because I
plan
love its
that is
people
about
and I want
allowing
its people to be
able
better
to
and to do
pursue
better.
what
And
has
I
been
believe in the
fleeting in
potential of
terms of
this
the
country.
American dream
But if you're
by
asking about the
offering
culture,
help with
if you're
down
asking
payment
about
of
the history of
$25,000
America,
down payment assistance for first-time
there's a
home buyers.
lot of rot
That's the
in
kind
all
of
of that.
conversation I believe,
And
David,
I think that we could
people
learn a
really
lot
want
from the
tonight,
Asian cultures.
as opposed to a
I think
conversation
they get a
that is
lot of stuff
constantly
right.
about belittling
But no, like
and name calling.
especially in the last, I would
Let's
say
turn the
5 years,
Vice President
move
Harris,
I've really,
thank you. Let's turn to policy. Let's turn back to
I've
policy.
real, I mean, I've
President
always
Trump-
appreciated
Let's turn to
Asian
policy,
culture
please.
because I grew up with a lot
To
of
defund
Asian
the
cultural
police.
influences.
She has a plan
But
to
especially in the last
confiscate everybody's
in the last
gun.
5
President
years,
Trump,
She has
we do
a
have
plan
to
I have
to not
really
allow
come
fracking
to
in
have a
Pennsylvania
new,
or anywhere
deeper
else.
Okay,
That's
level
what
of
her plan
respect
is, what
and
Joe just
appreciation
I just need
Lindsey
to
for
Graham,
Asian
please.
culture.
President
And I
Trump
think that we could learn a lot
something
from them.
twice
I
that
really
need to
do.
respond to.
I'm
I think
sorry,
there's a
I'm gonna-
lot
we're
in
gonna
Asian
move on.
culture that
Vice
could
President
improve the
Harris,
West.
like
President Trump, this is
multiple
now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act.
I am a
also
weeb.
known as Obamacare. You have failed
And
to
proudly
accomplish that.
so.
You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care. Always
For the
was.
love of God,
It's not very
Kamala,
good
just
today.
say you're going to do
And what I
universal
said,
health
that if
care.
we come up
I
with
don't
something,
care
and we
if
are
it's a
working on
single
things,
payer
we're
system.
gonna
I
do
don't
it,
care
and
if
we're
it's a
gonna replace
public
it. But
option.
remember
Just
this.
do
I
something
inherited
that's going to give
Obamacare
everybody
because
access
Democrats
to health
wouldn't
care
change it. They
without
wouldn't
breaking the
vote for it.
fucking
They were
bank.
unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had
That's
a
what
much
I wanna
better
hear from her
plan than
tonight.
Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to
This
make when I was
idiot has been
president.
saying he's
Do
gonna
I
give us
save it
a
and
health
make it as good as
plan
it can be?
for the
Never
last-
going to be great. Or do I
For the
let
last
it
8
rot?
years, and we
I
still
felt I
haven't
had an
got any
obligation, even
details
though
on it.
politically it would have been
It's
good to just
insane.
let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So
Does
just
Trump
yes or no, you
realize
still do
there's
not have a
actually
plan.
healthcare
I have
plans
concepts of a
on
plan.
the healthcare
I'm
market
not
created
president
by
right now.
Obamacare
But
where you
if
pay $0 $0 a
We
month
come up with
and
something.
you
I
pay a
would only change
$0
it if we come
copay,
up with
there's
something that's
I
better and less
checked the
expensive.
marketplace.
And there are concepts
You can
and
get
options
healthcare for
we
free
have
through a
to do
tax
that. And
rebate.
you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant
Like
future.
instead of getting a
Vice
tax
President Harris, in
refund, they take your
2017, you
tax
supported
refund and
Bernie
apply
Sanders'
it to your
proposal to do
premium,
away with
so you
private
pay
insurance and create a
nothing.
government-run
What the fuck
healthcare
is he
system.
talking about that
2
it's
years
too
later, you
expensive?
proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a
Damn it,
previous
go
point
further.
that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking, and then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to
Even
the
if you
Affordable
don't
Care Act,
do a
understand, let's
single-payer
just look
universal
at the
healthcare
history to know
or
where
a
people
single
stand.
payer
When
option,
Donald Trump was
do
president,
at
60
least a
times
public
he tried to get
option.
rid of the Affordable Care Act.
That is
60
the bare
times. I
minimum
was
you
a
can
senator
do.
at the time.
Do a
When
public
I will never
option.
forget the early morning hours.
Listen,
when
if
it
you
was
want to
up
know
for
how
a
a
vote in the
public
United
option would
States
work,
Senate, and the late great John
look at
McCain,
education.
who you have
You have private
disparaged
schools, but you
as
also have
being
public
a-
schools.
you don't
That way,
like him, you
everybody has
said
an
at the
option to
time,
get an
because he
education.
got
It
caught.
would be
He
the
was an
same thing.
American hero.
You would
The
have
late,
private
great
health
John McCain, I
insurance,
will never
but you would
forget
also
that
have
night.
public health
Walked onto
insurance
the Senate floor and
that people
said,
could fall back
"No,
on.
you don't. No, you don't.
That's the
No,
public
you
option.
don't get rid of the Affordable
That
Care Act.
is
You
the
have no
bare
plan."
minimum
And
I'm
what the
asking
Affordable
for.
Care Act
Jesus
has done
Christ,
is
please
eliminate the
do
ability
better,
of
Kamala. I
insurance
need you to
companies
do better on
deny people
healthcare.
with
I really
pre-existing
do.
conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight. You remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor,
But that's
if
crazy
a
though,
grandparent
because
had
every other
diabetes?
developed
And
country
thankfully,
has a
as I've been vice
universal
president,
healthcare
and we over the
system,
last
and
4
they
years
pay
have
less
strengthened the Affordable Care Act,
than
we
we
have
do,
allowed for the
and
first
they
time
get
Medicare
better
to negotiate
results.
drug
Why is
prices
this
on
so
behalf
fucking
of
taboo
you, the American people.
when we have all
Donald
this
Trump said he
evidence
was
from
going to allow
around the
Medicare to
world to
negotiate
support it?
drug prices. He never did. We did.
Just give me a
And now we
public
have capped the cost
option.
of insulin at $35
We
a month.
almost
Since
got a
I've been
public
vice
option if it
president,
wasn't
we
for
have
Joe
capped the cost
Lieberman
of
voting
prescription
against it.
medication
Fuck
for
Joe
seniors at
Lieberman.
$2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it.
But
And
to
the
do
plan
that,
has
you have
be
to have a free
to strengthen
option.
the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
You have to
pass
have
it
some way
law
for people
in
to
terms of where
access
Donald
health care
Trump
for
stands on
free.
that.
I want to move
And
to
the
an
only
issue
way to
that's
do that
important for a
is
lot of
either a
mistake.
single payer
And
system
number one,
or
John
a
McCain
public
fought
option.
Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And
But you know what, failure? We have a lot of people in
do
this
much
country
better
that
than
can't afford
Obamacare,
health
much
care at all.
less money. But
And that's
she
not
won't
right.
approve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another
And
thing. She
the
doesn't
thing
want.
is, if we had a
Paying
public
privately
option,
for
you could
insurance
keep your
that have
private
worked
health
hard
insurance
and made
plan.
money,
A
and they
public
wanna have
option
private.
would
She
not
wants
eliminate
everybody
private
to
health
be on
insurance.
government
It would just
insurance
give
where
a
you wait
free
6
option
months for an
for people that
operation
can't
that you need
afford it.
immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is,
Because
what
they're
would
fucking
you do
cowards.
to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll
That's
start
why
with
they're
you. 1
fucking
minute for you
cowards.
each.
We
Well, the
almost had a
former
public
president had
option.
said that climate change
Joe
is a hoax.
Lieberman voted against the
And
public
what we
option.
know is that
If
it is
Joe
very real.
Lieberman
You
had
ask
voted
anyone
for
who
it,
lives in a state who
it
has
would have passed. We would have
experienced
had a
these extreme
public
weather
option during
occurrences, who
Obama's
now is either being
administration.
denied
That's
home
what's
insurance or
fucking
is being
crazy,
jacked
dude.
up. You ask
Like
anybody
a public
who has
option
been,
should not be controversial
the
in
victim
any
of
way.
what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs, he lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud
A
to have the
majority of
endorsement
Americans
the
want a
United Auto
universal
Workers and
healthcare
Shawn
system.
Fain, who
it's
also
like
know that part of
80% of
building a clean
Democrats and
energy
30%
economy
of
includes
Republicans
investing in
want a
American-made
universal
products,
health care system.
American
The
automobiles.
reason they
It
don't do it
includes
is because
growing
the
what we can do
health
around
insurance
American
companies have
manufacturing and
very
opening up
powerful
auto plants,
lobbyists.
not closing them like happened under
And
Donald Trump.
I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. Lobbying should be illegal.
They lost 10,000
There should be a law
manufacturing
that says
jobs
that lobbying
this
is
last
illegal.
month.
It should not be
They're
allowed.
all leaving.
That's fucking
They're
crazy to
building
be
big
allowed
auto
lobbying to
plants
happen.
in Mexico, in many cases
Fuck these
owned by
corporations, man.
China.
I can't
They're
stand
building
insurance
these
companies. They're
massive
some of the
plants,
worst
and they
fucking
think they're going to
people.
sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or
lobbying
South
should be
Carolina
straight up
or any
illegal.
other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it between him and his son. They get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
So here's what I'll say about this debate so far. He's not had a total meltdown moment like I thought he might. That could still happen. We're not over. We're not done with this yet. But he's definitely had some slip ups, and you can tell like there's been different points throughout this debate where she's gotten under his skin. She's touched some of his nerves for sure, and she's caused him to have rambling episodes, rambling moments, but there's not been like one moment where it's just like a total clusterfuck. And I don't know, maybe that's coming up. I mean, we still got 24 minutes left in this bitch, so maybe that's still coming up. But she needs to try and create that moment. She really does. But so far, I think she is winning the debate. She's not had a total knockout punch, but I think she is winning the debate at this point. And I think she does look. I'm just gonna be honest. Like she looks more presidential than he does right now, and she definitely looks way more presidential than Biden did. Holy shit! But no, I think it's pretty obvious at this point. Replacing Biden with Harris was like the obvious right choice. I mean, duh. But yeah, I think she's just not had like a knockout punch. That's the thing. She's staying ahead. She's winning this, and maybe that's what this is all going to come down to. Is it's going to be slow and steady wins the race, and maybe that's what she's going with here. And so far, I think she is winning the debate, but she's not had that knockout punch that I personally would have liked to have seen. Now that being said, the healthcare thing just really pisses me off. Like that's I think like her biggest flub is the healthcare thing. Just say you're going to do a public option. That shouldn't be controversial. Would her administration be any different than these past 3.5 years? It would probably be more progressive. It wouldn't be as progressive as like a Bernie Sanders or an Elizabeth Warren, but it definitely be more progressive than Biden. And I think one of the reasons why you see that is because of Tim Walz. Tim Walz is more progressive than Kamala Harris, and if he has any kind of influence on her, and I think he would because they do seem to get along really well, he would probably push for more progressive policies. And that's why I'm hoping maybe he's going to whisper in her ear at some point, do the public option. I hope that's what he does. I hope that's what he does. That's one of the reasons why I was so happy to see that she did pick Tim Walz, because he is the most progressive candidate out of all the people that were in contention to be her vice presidential candidate. So, yeah, I think that especially with him in there, and of course it's all going to depend on if they get a majority in the House and the Senate. But I do think it's going to be a more progressive administration than what we saw with Biden, because one reason Biden's administration had so many issues is because the dude is fucking old, and the prime of his life was the 1980s, and he's old and he's stagnant, and it just wasn't an like it was the wrong dude at the wrong time. And I think like his administration was supposed to be like a transition to the next generation. And that's why it was like so weird to have him running for a second term. It was just, but no, I think she's going to be a more proactive president. And she's actually going to try and get some real policies. In other words, I think it's going to be, I think she's going to be more in line with Obama in terms of her governing style than I think compared to Biden, to be honest with you. But she's not going to be like a Sanders or a Warren or anything like that. No.
Yeah. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
All right, here we go. Closing statements.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us, and we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses.
I really think it depends on if she gets majorities in Congress. If she doesn't get majorities in Congress, she's going to have a very hard time getting any kind of policy or legislation passed. But if she gets a majority of the Senate and a majority of the House of Representatives, I think you're going to see something much more in line with the Obama administration. And that's why I keep saying she needs to do the public option, because the next logical step after Obamacare would actually be a public option. That's the next logical step.
That will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of
so I don't know.
woman
It
to
really
make
depends on
decisions about her own body
how the
and not
Congress
have her
turns. Like
government
if she gets
tell
a
her what to
majority in
do.
Congress,
I'll tell you,
she's
I
probably
started
going
my
to
career as a
be more
prosecutor. I was a
more of a
DA, I was
proactive
an attorney
president.
general, a United States senator, and now vice president.
But that's
I've
really
only
what
had
it's
one
going to come
client,
down to,
the people.
in all honesty.
And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away.
I think she would be harsher on Israel.
She gave it to Afghanistan.
And try to
these
really
people
push,
have done to our country, and maybe
apply a
toughest
lot
of
of
all is
pressure for
allowing millions
Netanyahu
of
to
people to come
create
into
some
our
kind of
country.
peace
Many of them
agreement.
are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst
I think she's going to be
president, the
harsher on
worst
Israel
vice president
than Biden.
in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank
as
you.
far as
and
Ukraine
that is
and
our
Russia,
ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you
probably
for watching
continue to
here in the
supply
U.S. and all
weapons
over
to
the
the
world, and from all of
Ukrainians.
us here at ABC News. Good night.
Continue to give them money. But
And we are here
I would
live
hope
on ABC
that she
with
wouldn't
our post-debate.
do anything overt. Like, if you're going to do anything when it comes to Russia, be very subversive about it and do it under wraps. And you may say, well, that's kind of shady and dishonorable. I'd rather be known for being shady and dishonorable than for starting World War III. Straight up. All right, folks. The talking heads are going to do what talking heads do. But this talking head, this anime talking head, no politician would be hard on Israel. I was told they're our greatest ally. I mean, listen, she's not going to come out and say, fuck Netanyahu. Like, that's not going to happen. But what I'm saying is, like, in closed meetings, behind closed doors, I think she's going to apply a lot of pressure to him to get him to cut this shit out, because it's getting fucking crazy over there. And listen, Israel has every right in the world to go after Hamas. Fuck Hamas. But what they're doing to the people in the Gaza Strip is just straight up, it's fucking terrible. It's just, I could spend like a whole another hour talking about it. It's sickening. It's sickening. And I think like that is what it's a fucking humanitarian crisis. And I think she's really going to put pressure on him to cut that shit out. But I think it's all going to be done under wraps. And honestly, it really should. Like, not every fucking thing, especially when it comes to foreign policy, needs to be out there for everybody to see. Sometimes the most effective tactics when it comes to foreign policy are done behind closed doors. And I'm perfectly fine with that as long as the end result is good for humanity. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this one. We're pretty much done. My thoughts on it, I think that she definitely won the debate. I think she looked more presidential. I think she definitely touched a nerve with him quite a few times throughout the debate. I think she definitely got under his skin at different points during the debate. And I think overall he came off looking very petty in some regards, especially when he was talking about like crowd sizes and shit like that. It just didn't look good. But there wasn't really a knockout punch. I think it was slow and steady wins the race. And I think slow and steady, she won the debate. But she didn't really have a knockout punch. She didn't really have that moment where she makes him just go absolutely batshit and insane. So overall, where are we after this debate? I think that she looks better. I think she's going to see a boost from this, but I don't think it's going to be a major boost. I don't think it's going to be like this huge, oh shit, suddenly the new polls have come out at the end of the week and she's up 60% and he's at 40. No. Listen, this race is going to be incredibly close. This race is going to be won by 2 to 3 points. All right. Not even 5 points. It's going to be 2 to 3, three at most. All right. And I think that she maintains the momentum that she had going into this debate. maybe adds a little bit to it, but there's nothing here that like just is a total knockout punch. It's not like with the first debate where, yeah, that first debate was a knockout punch for Biden. And in retrospect, that's pretty obvious. I mean, I knew it that night. I was on here talking to Extra Hero and everybody, and I said, look, he's going to drop out. He's going to drop out, and he's going to name Kamala as his replacement. And I was fucking right about that shit. I was off by a week, but you have to remember there was something that happened that week that kind of changed things dramatically, and that was the assassination attempt on Trump. But in terms of the actual prediction playing out and the end results, which is Biden dropping out and Kamala coming in as a replacement, I was right about that shit. Coming out of this, again, I think she still has the lead. I think she still has the momentum. And I think she maybe added a little bit to it, but there was nothing here that gave her a knockout punch. That just didn't happen tonight. But she did what she needed to do. She did what she needed to do. She'd have a better chance, in my opinion, if she did something after becoming the nominee. Executive orders, anything to prove that. But she's the vice president. You do realize that the vice president does not have any sort of power or authority to make any kind of policy, right? Only the president can write an executive order. Legally and constitutionally, the only job that the vice president has is to be president of the Senate. And basically the only job that she has in that regards is if there's a tie in the Senate, she's the tie-breaking vote. That's why they always say if it's 50-50, whoever the vice president is basically gives that particular party the majority. That's it. She has no power right now. She's just the vice president. She can't make an executive order. Only Biden can do that. I meant to push Biden to do something. Well, from what I understand, they don't exactly have the best relationship. Now, I'm not saying they're antagonistic towards each other, but Biden is going to do what Biden is going to do. Biden... Think about how much pressure had to be applied to Biden for him to drop out. You had to have the Obamas, you had to have the Clintons, you had to have Pelosi, you had to have all these people come in. You had fucking... dude. What's his fucking name? Shit, I forgot his fucking name. I'm blanking on his name. Batman, the George Clooney. You have fucking George Clooney coming out. Like, think about how much pressure it took to make Biden actually drop out of the race. I don't think she has that type of sway over Joe Biden. I really don't. But no, I think, and again, like she may be more progressive than I'm giving her credit for, and she just she just, you know, might be having to, like, she's really going to do it, needs to get elected. And she doesn't want to be painted as quote unquote radical, even though a public option is not radical in any shape or form. But they would try and frame it that way. And she may be way more progressive governing than she is running as a candidate, which is what I'm hoping is going to be the case. And Tim Walz gives me a lot of hope for that because he's more progressive than she is. Sounds like he didn't step down. He was pushed out. Yeah, but it was for the greater good, so I really don't care. I'm just going to be honest. Like, he needed to drop out. He needed to drop out. I don't care how it happened. It just needed to happen. And you may say, well, Jesker, are you an ends justify the means type of guy? Yes, I am. And on that revelatory note, we're going to call out a stream, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. I'll see you guys later. I am actually going to have the PlayStation 4 Pro got revealed today. I'm going to have a video going up on the gaming channel. Actually, let me put a link to the gaming channel real quick in the chat so you guys can go check it out. But tomorrow I have a video coming out on the gaming channel where I'm actually going to talk about the fucking PS4 Pro and its ridiculous fucking price point. And that was ridiculous. But I am going to have that coming out tomorrow. So here's a link to the gaming channel. Go check that out. Go subscribe. And I should have a video coming out sometime tomorrow discussing that. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Much love. Failure, Cynic, everybody that showed up, people that were watching but didn't comment in the chat. Much appreciated. I will see you guys later. Failure says, I won't lie. I'd rather Biden stay in instead of the system propping Harris in his place. At least people voted for him. But the thing is, they also voted for Harris. What you got to realize is that it's the Biden-Harris ticket. So when you cast your vote for Biden, you're also casting your vote for Harris at the same time. So on paper, they did vote for Harris. That's why when she became the nominee, she was able to claim all of his delegates, and why she was able to claim all of the campaign money that Biden has raised, because they're a ticket. Like this November, when you go to vote, if you vote for Trump Vance, speaking of which, here's JD Vance right now, fucking hamster eater. No. Fucking sicko. Eating poor defenseless hamsters, you sick fuck. Anyways. If you go and vote for Trump and Vance, when you vote for Trump, you are also voting for JD Vance at the same time. When you go to vote for Harris, you're also voting for Tim Walz at the same time. Like the vote is cast for both of them. So on paper, they did vote for Harris. I understand that, but not as president. But see, you can make the argument that because she is the vice president, when you go to make that vote, you realize that if something were to happen to Joe Biden, God forbid, if something were to happen to Joe Biden and he were to pass away or became incapacitated to where he could not be president, you should know when you go to cast this vote that if something happens to where he can no longer serve as president, she will constitutionally step in to become president. So in that sense, you are voting for her to be president, because there is always that possibility, God forbid something happens, that she would become president. So you are casting a vote to say, well, I trust her to be president. Even though you're not voting for her to be president, you're voting for her to be the stand-in for president if it comes to that. So you can make the argument that no, like people did vote for her. I understand what you're saying. That's probably not how most people viewed it when they cast their vote for Biden. But in reality and on paper, that is what happened. So it is what it is. And again, I don't care, because I wanted Biden out. He needed to go. He needed to step aside. Anyways, yeah, that's going to do it for tonight. I have to go to bed, folks. I have to get up early in the morning, unfortunately. And but yeah, I will have a video coming out on the gaming channel. Go check that out. Go subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Peace out. See you guys for the next one.